Hello, hello. So let's do this. Live stream number two this week, which is pretty good for me. But like I told you guys before, I had some time to kill. So I thought, what better way to spend it than with my family, my extended family on YouTube? How you guys doing? Happy Saturday. Thank you guys all for joining the JT Follows JT YouTube experience. I will be your host today. My name is JT. It's actually not my name, that's actually my initials, but you guys know what I mean. How's it going, friends? Friends and family. So I went and visited another old world building in South Florida, and this was a fun one. But before we get into that, I got some stuff I want to tease. So I think we might have a special guest today whenever he's available. I think you guys know who he is. His name is Paul from Understanding Conspiracy. Paul said he was kind enough to join me today. And yeah, so I'm excited to talk to my good buddy. Also, I have something to tease for tomorrow. Now, it should happen. I'm not exactly sure of all the details, but many people the other day said you need to connect with Old World Florida, Dr. Narco Longa. And so if you guys follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you likely saw that we connected. So we did actually connect. I had a few friends that know me and them, and they put us together. And so I visited. And I had a really long, fun conversation with Dr. Narco Longo yesterday at his Dancing Elephants bookstore in Lake Worth, Florida. Yeah, so tomorrow we are scheduled to, I believe we're going to do a live stream on his channel. It'll be tomorrow morning. So I'm going to do a live in a location live stream with Old World Florida at Old World Florida. So he's a really interesting guy, and I'm excited to. I'm not even sure what we're going to talk about. We talked about a lot of things yesterday, so if you guys could have been there for that, you guys would enjoy that conversation. But I think I'm sure we'll never have run out of topics to talk about. So yeah, I believe that's going to be on his channel though. So Old World Florida. You guys probably know who he is. He was one of the people who starred in Old World Order by Sean Hibbler. And, he does like kind of all this kind of stuff. Okay, Paul says, "Got to give the baby a bath and a bottle before I'm available, but I'll try my best." Okay, so I will be here to hold the fort down while Paul is taking care of the most important thing, his family. But yeah, we can talk before then. Maybe we can even do some Q&A first. Or what I can do is, again, somebody said on my live stream the other day that I need to visit the Henry Morris Flagler Museum. So I did that today. So I visited the old the old courthouse, and yeah, and I guess that was the Pat or the Richard and Pat Johnson Museum. And then so the next on my list was the Henry Flagler Museum. And I did that today. Very cool, very like Biltmore estate vibes. That was fun. Longo says some questionable stuff, but he's all right. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some stuff from Old World Florida, and yeah, we're not going to agree about everything. I think that's kind of like the difficult space to be in this community where, just because you have a guest on or you go on somebody's show, it's not an endorsement of that person particularly or everything they say. I would say that doing the kind of research we do, I think it's important to have conversation with a variety of people. Yeah, and there's certain things that we're going to disagree about a lot about, but we're not going to, like especially when you have a conversation with somebody, like you're not looking for points of disagreement, you're looking for points of agreement and maybe what we can learn from each other. So that's what I hope to do. I think it's going to be really fun because, like I said, he's got some really interesting connections. Obviously, he's got very good connections regarding this area because he's from here. I've only been to Florida, a half a dozen times or so. maybe a little more than that. I can't even remember honestly. But yeah, like I'm enjoying my time in Florida. I got a little sunburnt yesterday, and the beach was nice, man. Yeah, I went to Juno Beach yesterday, and the other day we went. So we got in on Wednesday, and it was really windy, and I was like, oh, there's probably going to be some waves because it's so windy. And then the wind was there was no waves. I thought, oh, maybe Juno Beach doesn't get any surf. So then yesterday I went to the beach. I mean, there was the funnest little wave out there. It was about, it's probably not little. It was breaking close to shore, but it was probably about chest high. I wish I'd have known. I would have rented a surfboard. I would have surfed. It was beautiful water, beautiful beaches here. Florida's pretty fun. But like I said, I think my heart and my hair say move out west, but Florida's not so bad. Actually, my sister-in-law sent us a article. I think that Trump is here. So I'm probably like 20-ish minutes from Mar-a-Lago right now. Yeah. I wonder if you think he'd come on the podcast? You think he would come on to the JT Follows JC experience? I mean, he's gone on a comedian's podcast. Why wouldn't he come on here? I mean, probably because I'm a nobody compared to Theo Vaughn and people like that. Was it Tim Dillon? I think did he come on Tim Dillon's show? Yeah, but yeah, he's in Mar-a-Lago, I think, right now. That's not far from here. But it is interesting. So, like, obviously, Trump's a rich guy, but I don't think that Trump ever had Henry Flagler money. And so, a woman in the chat, sister in Christ, she was kind enough to say, "Hey, you need to go check this out." And I heard from Dr. Narco Longo that Henry Flagler was actually like John D. Rockefeller's right hand man. And so the over a top estate they've got, and I guess he built a hotel. Supposedly we're told he built a hotel. We're told he built this house. Did they actually build that stuff? We'll get into that. But you're talking about, like, it's kind of like when you see somebody who's rich, because like in your local area, like that person's rich. And then you come down to a place like West Palm Beach and you're like, whoa, there's another level of this. You talk about like new money versus old money. This is some old money stuff here. The amount of excess in places like this, mega yachts and everything like that, every nice car imaginable. This is why people get angry. That the basically the wealth transfer and the equity gap between us and them. It's like this is a whole different universe from what normal people experience. But I do like to look at it. I do like to look at it. But yeah, when you see like this, well, I'll start to share some pictures. When you start to look at some of the excess and just the details in these buildings, it is incredible. So we'll start with, yeah, let's start first with, wait a minute, oh, here we go. Yeah, so here's the house right here. So you guys checking that out? So there is the Henry Morris Flagler, or is it Morrison? Maybe it's Henry Morrison Flagler Museum, which supposedly just used to be his house. It's quite a house. I'll tell you that. It's quite a house. And let's just flip through some pictures here. Let me see. Okay. Yep, there's some more right there. It's epic. You can kind of see the columns. I would say the columns in the front, they got to be approaching, well, 20 feet tall, maybe slightly bigger, 20-ish feet tall. Another shot. Check it out. Check out that bench. So it's got like the cherub looking creatures, kind of like, do you guys remember that movie, The Never Ending Story, where Atreyu had to pass between them and their eyes opened and they shot like lightning bolts out? Yeah, that's That's where that comes from, I guess. So yeah, it's really epic under there. It's just like all the detail, all made of like granite and fine stone. Yeah, if you look and you zoom in on here, those faces. Are very I don't know. They look I find them to be sinister. There's another view. Yeah, I don't get very cheery vibes when I see that. It's kind of spooky to me. There's your epic door going in, lion face, and yeah, that just all the incredible detail. I guess it's copper. Yeah, you can kind of see how the scale of it. I mean, let's say that lady's 5 foot tall. Yeah, I would say those columns would probably have to be 25 feet ish. Is that right? Maybe 25 feet tall. We got Caesar Augustus. What we're told is the first emperor of Rome. His bust gets the blurry shot. Oh, check out this epic clock with a bell on it. Now this thing was pretty interesting. I've not taken a very close look at almost anything here, but look at that. It's kind of got like the black sun as we talked about earlier. Is that the devil on top of there, or is that a good angel? I don't know. Some kind of a bird. There's your clock face, and of course, it's like there's just so much iconography. Okay, it looks like a little cupid or cherub down there banging on the bell. But yeah, I thought this thing was pretty incredible as far as the detail. Pretty cool. Yeah, and then there's your ceiling. So of course, this is just so common in places like this. You got heavenly portrayals of I guess either goddesses and angels up in the heavens, and even all around it, it's like there's just details of angels and cherubs and every other thing that you can imagine being in the heavens. Look, there you go. There's those bare-breasted cherub women again from the Never-Ending Story. Look, and it's almost always Lady Liberty, Libertas. I'm pretty sure that's our Statue of Liberty right there. Or is that Satan? They had these all over the place. Welcome, Joshua. There's your goat head. I mean, obviously, this place is rich with Greco-Roman pagan stuff in here. Oops, I'm out of here. There, like I said, you just go in every room. Like I said, the amount of detail going into every room in this place. I think that's what I was saying. Like when you think of like excess, it's like there is so much in every spot in here. Like almost every floor on the first floor just had just amazing detail. Like they spared no expense. See more, you got more heavenly depictions of could there be Apollo on his chariot? Is that yeah, I think something like that. Thank you, Wendy. God bless you. Well, check this out. So look, they had a organ in there, a pipe organ. Typically, you only see this kind of stuff in cathedrals, but they had one in this house, in this mansion. How about that? And again, look, so you have all the angels, the little cherubs. Yeah. Feels like the piano is a little bit the seat and stuff is a little understated. But yeah, you don't typically see that in somebody's house. Another epic ceiling in there. Another one. I guess this was the ballroom. Yeah, and of course, this is telling the story of the Whitehall, Palm Beach, Florida. The famous estate of the late Henry M. Flagler. Ooh, that was for sale? Wonder what it sold for. I don't see what it says what the list price is in that house is. Yeah, more statues. Very strange. Oh, this was cool. This was some pavilion out on the outside, and they had a train car in there. And I guess Henry Flagler was credited with bringing the railroads down to, I guess, the south of Florida. And so there's a rail car in there. The lady at the museum told me that they recently found this and it was in a junkyard, and they decided to bring it to the estate. It was in a junkyard? That's a little strange. Oh yeah, so this is the shot from behind the museum. Check out that yacht right there. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, there's rich, and then there's this kind of rich. That boat right there, that thing is some serious. I mean, yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know. Oh yeah, check this thing out. This is this fountain back here. Okay, so we got this naked lady, and look at these little demons all around it. Yeah, I think Brian was saying that he thought that was Pan. Look at their wicked faces. Yeah, that's like, why would you want that at your house? Why, really? Oops, back here. Yeah, why would that be something you would actually want to display at your house? It's clearly they're demonic, and it looks like they've got bad intentions. Their wicked faces. Yeah, it's just sorry for the booty. I have to censor that later. I guess I was moving too quickly out of that room. Yeah, I guess more iconography on the ceiling of murals of angels and heavenly things. Another grand piano. Yeah, this was a really cool clock. Look at that. Kind of made me think of, like, the Scottish Rite vibes with those birds down there. Of course, cherubs, and I mean, just the amount of excess in this thing was just crazy. Everything. Like I said, there was an endless amount of just ridiculous paintings and clocks and all the things. Oh, this was some kind of little art gallery in there, and of course, I serious Masonic vibes there. Dragon lamp, another clock. I mean, they were fond of clocks at the Flagler house. Oh, that was blurry again. Oh, this was really interesting because this was something that was an old hotel that was there that they end up demoing later. Some massive old world building that got demoed before anybody ever really got to see it. Ridiculous. Another massive one that I guess is gone now. There's a few pictures of this guy. He is what? Gislandian de El Trat Palatra. Sorry. Another one of the gate. Oh, and they had a couple of these really massive trees. And so Dr. Narcolongo was telling me that this tree over here, it's called a, well, let me see. It's called a, okay, was it Kapok? Kapok tree? Kapok tree? It said over here that this tree, according to Narcolongo, like, you see, look at the roots. The pictures do not do this tree justice. And so this tree is supposed to be about 100 to 200 years old, but he was trying to say that these trees typically in 100 years would just be tall and skinny. So he's theorize this tree could be up to 500 years old, which would be really interesting because, of course, if they built this thing when they said it did, it probably wouldn't make sense, but pretty epic tree. Let me see, go back at it here before you see. I also made it over to the Breakers Hotel, and this was also credited with. Oh, there's me. Like, so there you go. That tree is just really interesting. But yeah, this is the Breakers Hotel, and this was once again an old world building. And this is, like I said, this is where you have like the richie of the riches here. Really old world classic. Just, I mean, it's a classy building. I gotta admit, I liked it. I wouldn't have mind staying there. I don't think I could afford to stay there, but pretty cool. Once again, you have goddesses, some kinds of ladies. You have little cherubs wrestling birds and alligators. Really weird. And this place was, once again, it had the details on the inside were incredible. Let's see over here. Yeah, they love the iconography of heavenly things. I think there must have been some kind of connection they had that we do not have anymore. Apparently, this is the place where you can get like the ridiculously good brunch, but I missed it, and I'm probably glad that I did because I don't know if I would want to pay for it. Yeah, here's a classic picture of this hotel when it was being built. Where are all the people at? Baloney, baloney. And of course, this is when it caught on fire for the second time. These stories about these buildings burning down multiple times is a bit tiresome. Oh, and this was a Mercedes Maybach, which is about a $300,000 car. Yeah. And and there you go. There was my trip to the Henry Flagler Museum. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my little slideshow. I did. I felt like the last time I went to one of those museums, the Richard and Pat Johnson Museum, I felt like I really came away with like a great find. And I'm gonna have to make a short video about that. This was just more like this was really cool. This was really interesting, but I kind of got more like vibes of going like to the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina. It's so impressive, and you just don't really believe the story. But I found no smoking guns there, unfortunately. You know, but I mean, I've really enjoyed my journey so far, and I'm very new into it. That every place that I go now, there's something I can go look at. I'll find stuff. Believe it or not, I've been really, really busy on this little vacation. It's not a vacation for my wife because she's busy. She's taking a class, but I have been like nonstop doing stuff while I've been here. I've been either doing research, going to the gym. I did hit the beach for an hour yesterday, but I've been doing live streams. I've been doing all the things. Read my Bible, of course. I've been having fun. You know what? So while we wait for Paul, maybe we can go over to the YouTubes and we can see if we got any questions, because I did solicit more questions, and we can do that while we wait for Paul from Understanding Conspiracy. Let's see the posts. Oh, we only got 13 so far. Man, that was a bit rough the other day when I had 61 questions. Okay, let's share. Let's do the same thing. We're going to share the screen. Okay, Paul will be there in 15. So I got 13 questions. Do you think I can do them in 15 minutes? All right, let's go over here. Okay. Wendy, moderator of the chat. People trying to figure out how these buildings were made. What if they were spoken into existence by Father? He dwells in temples not made with hands. This could refer more than our body being the temple. The antenna of the buildings could connect them all together via the ether and the resonance of each location, which allowed everyone to hear and preach the same time. Thoughts? Well, I think that I have a more, I don't know, I think that people built these buildings. I think people did build them because I've made the point before saying that if we don't believe certain buildings were built by the people with horses and buggies, it doesn't mean we don't think that people could build those kinds of buildings. We just don't see it being practical with our modern outlook on things. Like monetary system, the way everyone's punching a time clock, it doesn't make sense. But we do see things that the ancients built, and we see like ancient Romans, ancient Greeks, ancient Babylon, obviously the stuff in like the Hindu temples. I think that people can create grand architecture given the time and the resources. What I really find incredible and not believable is the time period they're built and the short durations of the construction. But I do believe people are capable of building stuff like this. So I'm not saying they didn't have help by a spiritual force, a godly Holy Spirit driven idea to do it. It was been my conclusion pretty much from the beginning that without the hindrance of the devil to deceive us and the spiritual warfare maybe that was not there, maybe they did have a higher level of understanding of things because they were not dealing with the things that we have to deal with. I think that most of the impediments we have today are man-made in their own purpose. So what if there was a time when those impediments were men were working to remove impediments instead of add them? Then you get at a time where you can create great architecture and great beauty without trying to, like to not starve to death and things like that. So, but I do believe that there was a different type of technology that likely did involve sounds and frequencies and all the kinds of things. Okay, so Raymond DH. So no conference sounds like a lot of little seasoned content creators are on the same page in general, but dissing themselves slightly to focus on specialized other things. Maybe a monthly or collaborative Q&A with major voices would help unifying the community a little bit with all you guys in a live together. Would like to see unity as the topic is important. So many of us, no one in real life believes what we do. You all keep us sane by reminding us that we're not alone in this season. Read more of deception. Yeah, so what you said is pretty accurate, at least from our perspective. I don't know if Paul wants to get into talking about that. I'll ask him about it. But yes, I largely agree. I think I've said this a few times over the past few weeks, and maybe even more than that, that we are not going to just be a little season channel here at the JT Follows JC experience. I am interested in a lot of things. I always have been. Now, I think what's really interesting about the little season idea is because you can a lot of things that fit. It's kind of like just the same stuff I'm doing right now. It- I like the old world research because it shows you that the past we're told about is likely fraudulent. So I like to find evidence. So I mean, so that is little season research without a specificity all the time talking about the little season. It's kind of like the people in this community already know it's about that. And I think that the reason I like to talk about the little season is because we can frame it with a biblical understanding. Because lots of channels like My Lunch Break and countless other channels, they show you like John Levi, which is interesting that John Levi kind of repented of his video dogging the book Revelation, but they can kind of show you that there's a lie in our past, but without really giving you any understanding of why. So I would like to make videos about those same still make videos about those same topics. But when people ask, well, what's the deal? Like, so why is it like this? We can talk about the little season then, give them a framework to understand it, and then point them to Jesus. I think that's still something I'm going to continue to do because I'm interested in it. I want to make videos about meltology. I want to make videos about the old world. I've always, since the very beginning of my content making, like exposing lies. That's just something I like doing. So I like things to make sense. So I'm going to continue on this journey to make sense of all the things. But I think when it's so little season specific about all the things, then I don't know. It's kind of like people asking me to summarize it. And again, I still do need to make a video about that, my little season summary video. I know I still need to do that. But yes, we're not, maybe we're getting too specific all the time. And I think that that's why I have JT's mixtape, so I can talk about lots of stuff. But I'm going to continue to talk about it when I feel led to talk about it. But I'm not going to talk about it just to, again, beat a dead horse, be a broken record, yada yada yada. But yes, I also believe that there's going to be a time and a place for it. I'm not going to stop talking about it because I'm not really letting anyone else dictate what I talk about over here. And I do believe that unity in this community is important. I think that more than anything, we need to show people Jesus. We need to show people love. And I think that that's what's been becoming very distasteful with the little season community. And again, I think it's a small sect, a corrosive sect of the community that's way more about conspiracy than they are about Jesus. They're really talking. They really want to talk about the North Pole. They really want to talk about shills. They really want to talk about all this other stuff. But they show no love to anyone. They show no grace. They show no fruits of the spirit. And that's what I'd like to distance myself from. I want the people who, like I said, I can find more common ground with people who believe in a pre-tribulation rapture, who show love and grace for each other, than somebody who believes all the same conspiracies I believe, but then they don't show any love. And I think that that's really what never needs to be lost, is because I think when you're sharing this kind of information, there's a lot of people who don't believe it right away. And you try not to turn those kind of people off by being a jerk and being arrogant about what you know, being all pompous. See, that's not who we are in this community. We're Christians first. We're followers of Christ first. And we might have some things wrong. So be humble too. And be willing to give grace, because we're going to need grace. So yes, I believe that I'll be here for you guys. You guys are not alone. Obviously, with Christ, we're never alone. But yes, I will continue to be here for everybody. And I'm not going to let the little bullies in the community dictate what I talk about or don't talk about. So hopefully that helps. Okay. Stumper. Is there any connection to the Great Pyramids in I believe you meant Canaanites? What are your thoughts on the Great Pyramids or any of these magnificent earthworks falling from heaven with Adam and Eve? Okay, so my position on the Great Pyramids, particularly the three really famous one in the Giza Plateau, I would say that I've always concluded, and I could be wrong about this, but this is my take, is that those pyramids, the greatest things constructed in Egypt, were likely in the days of Noah, antediluvian. That's what I believe. So that being said, after the flood, you have Noah has three sons, and obviously they have children. So one of Ham's sons a couple of Ham's sons were Cush, Egypt, and Canaan, right? So obviously think about all those. So Cush would end up being like the Ethiopians. Obviously Egypt, you guys know who Egypt is, and then you have Canaan. So you have the land of Canaan, you have Egypt, and then you have Ethiopia. I think that they settled in those places, but I think that particularly Egypt, those megaliths were already there. And likely they tried to emulate some of those megaliths. I think that the famous was it step pyramid of Khafre, I believe his name was. That's the one was they like to say that that's the oldest one, but I believe that that's the newest one because it looks like crap. I think that's them trying to make a pyramid, and it's got way smaller stones, and I think that they're like literally they're trying to emulate the Great Pyramid. They can't do it because they can't move 2.5 ton stones, 2 million of them. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I think that those were antediluvian. Now people say, what were they for? I think they likely had something to do with either being power stations, maybe healing centers. They were definitely more than tombs. I'll tell you that much right now. Okay, Randy Bishop, 9521. How do we prepare for the battles ahead, spiritually speaking? Food, fellowship, etc. Well, we let God fight our battles for us. I mean, I think that we put our faith and trust in Jesus. I think we try to be rooted in the Word, read the Word every day, be prayer without ceasing. Walking in faith, and just be prepared that if you are doing something good for God, you will be spiritually attacked at times. You will have the enemy targeting you, but understanding that he who is in me is greater than he who is in the world. So therefore, you try not to worry about it too much. But yeah, that's something that's going to happen. And yeah, we can lean on our brothers and sisters when that happens, but more so, you lean on God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit to get you through it, because sometimes people are not going to always be there for you. But when you do have people in your life that are good followers of Christ, and they give you good advice and they would pray for you, then it's okay to lean on them a little bit too. All right, Miss B11. Hi JT, do you think we will see big changes coming in the near future for all our benefit? Hopefully all the deceptions will fall away and healing take place. Thank you. Well, I mean, I would say I would hope for that. I don't want to I don't want my hope and my faith to be misplaced. I do think that this is my maybe more positive, hopeful opinion about what the little season could be, because there's really no specific time frame on it. Whether some people have their guesses about the time frame, I don't put it past God to slow the process down if people turn to Jesus and they repent. So if that were to happen, then things could get better. There could be healing. Now, do I expect that? No, I don't expect that. But I do think that what if we all believe that could happen, and we all walked with a purpose and an authority, and we tried to make this place better? Could it be better? I would say absolutely it could be better. I mean, how many of us would it take for us to make it better? Only God knows. Only God knows. So I would say that if you believe things can get better, I believe they can. If you believe they can't, then they won't. So whether you believe you can or you can't, you're correct. So I don't think you should ever try to lose that positive attitude of what can be, because ultimately we have a promise in Jesus, and things will be better no matter what. And all things together will work for the good for those who love God and are called to his purpose. So even with setbacks, we know that God can use it for good. So I like the hopeful attitude. I don't want us to be doomers in the little season group. I want us to be hopeful, because God is sovereign. Jesus on the throne. It's all going to work out. The Falkers. Hi JT. Any updates on the short length little season documentary? How's the website going? Okay, two things. There's been no progress on the short little season documentary. Thank you for Bed and Gecko Love. Yeah, there has been no progress on that, other than me talking about it and reminding myself that I have not made it. Um, we've maybe moved the needle a hair on maybe like a full length documentary, because I've talked about that more with my friends, and maybe we're gonna have to kind of push that. Maybe with a little season conference off the table, maybe this puts the documentary maybe more on the fore. Hopefully, now the website, you guys can go check that out if you guys want to see it. There, you can watch some videos on my website now. The store is not open yet. It's still limited in what we can do there. But if you guys go check out jtfollowsjc.com, you can at least see what it looks like. It works now. And like I said, I want to say thank you to my web guy who wants to be anonymous, but obviously he's storing up his treasures in heaven for helping me create that thing. But yeah, check that out. JTFollowsJC.com. And you can tell me how it's going. Okay. Xana escaped. Entire mankind, entire mankind's story is forgetting about the true God and worshiping other gods, angels, and Nephilim. Do you think a similar scenario might have happened during the millennial reign concerning the glorified saints? Could that have played a role in the kingdom having a back away for a while? I've thought that maybe that from the very beginning of what does all the the haloed saint iconography. What if that was something that was depicted in a good way, but eventually got turned in something that could have been like an idolatry type scenario, where that's why like that in the modern Catholic Church they pray to the saints because there was a time when the saints were interacting with the believers. And so eventually it's like instead of praying to the Father, you pray to the saints. But it was kind of like a game of telephone gone wrong. And that's kind of how man rolls. It's like in the same way that Moses was told by God to put the bronze serpent on the staff, and then the people were supposed to look upon their sin, and then they would be healed of the snake bites. Well, I mean, that's something God told Moses to do. But eventually, in the times of Hezekiah, they were worshiping the bronze serpent. So it's like they completely lost all kind of idea of what it was supposed to represent and what it was for. And so they turned it into an idol. So then Hezekiah had to destroy it. I think that seems really likely. I think that's like why that if God sent you one of his holy angels here today and he did something good for you, it was God who sent that angel to do good for you. So you should praise the God who sent the angel, praise the God who created the angel. You don't praise the angel, right? But what if it was in the same way that if God sent a glorified saint to do something good for you, you still don't worship the saint. You don't pray to the saint. You pray to the God who created the saint. I could see something like that happening. Makes sense to me. Okay, Lucy Girl 8. How do you think the destruction of Pompeii in 79 AD fits in? I think that could fit in like very nicely, honestly. I think that we talk often about the year 536, which I hate to say that I have to reiterate this every time now. I don't believe the year 536 was the year 536. I know that the chronology is jacked up. But what the mainstream science is saying is that after 536, it was like the worst year ever, followed by many of the worst years ever. 18 months of darkness, famine, plague, war, the end of the world, basically. But what the mainstream science is trying to say now that it is about volcanoes. So volcanic ash came up, blocks out the sun. It causes like winter in Japan and like the summertime. It snows in the summertime. I think it snows like yellow stuff and a mess. Cataclysm, cataclysmic event. And so what they've said is maybe it was multiple volcanoes erupting at the same time. Now, what's interesting is, okay, Paul's ready to join. Do you have the link, Paul? Let me copy the link. Let me get Paul hooked up over here. Gonna send it into the group chat. Okay, we got a special treat. We got Paul joining us. All right, now, yeah, but to finish that thought is what I was saying is that what you could have happen is that what if those volcanoes that they said were in 536, what if they began in 79 AD? I mean, even if it wasn't 79, what if it was like right after the temple of in Jerusalem was destroyed? Interestingly enough, that the first volcanic eruption on record in the historical record was Pompeii. So what if that begot the judgments? I think that that very likely could be the case, because I don't think it's a coincidence that Rome destroys Jerusalem, and then this most corrupt Roman city is destroyed by fire. Like, people are like literally petrified. That sounds like the day of the Lord. That sounds like judgment, a la the book of Revelation. Okay, stumper. When Jesus was arrested under Pontius Pilate, was he caught with young men that were naked? No. What are you talking about? There's a really weird thing where there was a man, I think in the Gospel of Mark, is some guy who ran by naked, but no, I don't know where you're getting that from. He was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he was praying. Was this a mockery to ask this question? No, he wasn't. But there is a really weird verse about there was a young man, I think, that ran away naked at one point, and that's in the Gospel of Mark. Really odd verse. Okay, give it to God says, how does your wife feel about you added the number of videos per week and strive to do this for a living? And are you giving her more attention than us? Those are legit questions, JT. We love you, but just want to make sure you're always paying attention to the devil's plans. First of all, that's none of your business, but I will answer the question anyways. She's very supportive. When I met her, I was making videos, and she knew I had a passion for this. And I don't believe that our relationship would work if she was not on board with this, because after all the stuff that I kind of went through, and I started to have a passion for doing this. And so this is who I am now. I feel like that God has given me something to do, something to say. And if she wasn't on board with it, yeah, it probably would never would have worked. But she is. And she's great and she's very supportive. And I'm supportive of her too, because actually I'm here on her business venture and I'm here to support her. And it's given me a lot of opportunity to do the things I'm doing today. So which I think is fantastic. And there's Paul. Paul, we got one more question, since we'll try to finish this up right now, and you can maybe help answer.
Yeah, sure thing.
What do you think of getting a group together for an off-road exploration camping trip to study old world ruins? Or would that be risky of an idea? I think, from my perspective, I think that's a fantastic idea. I don't know how practical it is, but I actually did when I went to Utah in November. I threw it out to people saying I was going to be visiting Vegas and I was going to be going to some of the national parks. And I actually did meet up with a brother named Morgan and his wife. I sorry I forgot her name, Morgan. But we we met up and we did some hiking and we saw some potential meltology. And yeah, and that was just, we went out to dinner, and there was only one couple, but I loved it. I mean, so I would say that is more likely to happen than a conference. that if we go someplace and we throw it out there, we're going hiking someplace. Yes, yes, it will not be there'll be not any waivers. This will not be. My insurance is not going to provide protection for people for hiking around the Grand Canyon. This will be adults just meeting up, a friendly meetup. There'll be no cost to get there other than your own expenses to get there. But I am down to meet and greet with the peeps if that's possible.
Yeah. I mean, there's actually, if people don't know, Nicolette, who has a small channel, biblically based, is having a small group get together in Florida to go and explore some old world buildings. So it is actually happening already, and
Oh,
groups
really?
are
Where do
already.
you know where in Florida she's at?
She's actually sent the invite in my Telegram group to everybody as well. Actually, but I think she did send it to me personally. I think. Yeah, she's gonna go see. Apparently you've already been there yourself. It's this tower.
Oh, the Bach Tower. Oh, yeah, yeah. I went to the Bach Tower um, about a year and a half. Well, actually, almost 2 years ago, I think now. Or no, was
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
No, it
So
was actually last year. I think I went.
yeah, so she got a
Hey,
whole day, a whole day planned out for everybody times, lunch, everything. Like it's all kind of, and she's got people going there with her to do that. So, like I said, if you want to have fellowship with people, it's more than possible, and you don't need us or a conference to make that happen. Like people want it, people need it in our community, I think, and work on it. Put the call out for people. Use my platform, like my Telegram, to meet people and organize things with whoever you've got in your area. Put the call outs, and it is possible. So absolutely, I think it's a good idea. I encourage it.
Well, yes, you know what? That's so. I'll try to leave a link if she's got anything specific. I can put that in there because I do think that I felt really grateful that now every trip that I do try to typically find something that's weird, like whatever it is. And it's like the cool thing is I haven't been skunked yet. Every place I've been, there's something to go look at.
Oh yeah.
For how far are you willing to drive? But I know that that's who I am, and I know because you guys watch these videos, that's who you guys are too. So if you definitely put a call out to people in a group saying, like, especially obviously a big state like Florida, there's a ton of people around here, and obviously if you think about like if it's a weekend, I imagine people would be willing to do a road trip. I recommend going to the Bach Tower. It's really weird. Actually, I was just talking to Old World Florida about it yesterday, and I'm supposed to do. I think I'm gonna do a stream with him tomorrow morning.
Dr. Longo.
Like, yeah, yeah. So we were
Yeah.
talking, and of course he's got all the inside skinny on all things Florida,
Mhm.
and yeah, he's telling me the story. It's a really sus story. The first and foremost, the Bach Tower location, beautiful. It's like this orange orchard, and it's got it's got like, of course, it's got like a moat around the thing and the tower. It's got like iconography of like the Garden of Eden on there. Music's, it's got bells in there, and it's it's worth checking out. I think that's a awesome idea. If I was close, I would go. I
Well,
would
there
go
you
to
go.
do
Yeah.
that meetup. It'd be fun.
It's funny you say Dr. Longo. He's actually we've just started talking because he did a presentation on the Nephilim clowns and shouted me out. So he's found my work and he's been doing his own talk on it.
Hmm.
And we've reached out to each other, and I'm going to go on his show tomorrow to talk about the Nephilim clowns. So not the old world stuff. It's actually going a different direction there. So
Uh-huh.
I thought it was quite interesting. And then I heard you earlier talking about how you're going to be talking with him about the old world stuff. So it's kind of worlds colliding here in some weird, odd kind of way.
Well, I went to his bookstore yesterday because somebody
Oh, cool.
like on Instagram like created a group conversation with the two of us in there. Hey, JT's in Florida. Dr. Longer, do you want to meet up with them? And I said, yeah. If you guys are if you're free. So I rode over there yesterday and we talked for about 2 hours. And at one point I said, do you know my friend Paul from Understanding Conspiracy? And he's like, oh yeah, we're supposed to do a stream. And I was like, oh, okay. So
Well, there you
yeah, I
go.
was
Yeah,
like, yeah.
it's a small conspiracy world, I guess. When it comes down to it, I actually offered to put some of my books on his shelf there in his bookstore. So I might be sending him a few copies to put there on consignment. So that's quite funny.
Oh, there you go.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. But in
That might
terms
be
of
the
like
perfect connection right there, huh? Got a
maybe,
bookstore.
yeah. But in terms of traveling as well, I went to Edinburgh not that long ago, just on a family holiday, just a getaway city trip. It's about a 3-hour drive, something from where I live. Um, and yeah, when I was there, the whole thing didn't feel like a holiday because I was just witnessing this beautiful architecture everywhere. Everything's old world. There's nothing there that isn't old world. Every single building was built hundreds of years ago, according to the historical
Mhm.
record. And in some case, like 900 years ago, castles, everything is all just kind of just sitting there as just normal, boring, everyday stuff in that place. So that was a whale of a time for me. I think my wife got sick of it, to be honest. I was just taking a picture. I was taking pictures of everything. I was telling her, get a picture of that one, get a picture of that one with your camera and film that because she was just trying to film the holiday. I said, get the footage of that. I'm going to need it. So I just had this footage everywhere that I haven't done anything with yet. Which I probably may make a tour of Edinburgh or something, maybe upload that on my channel. But it's that place is incredible.
You
And
just need to probably just have
yeah.
like one of those, just like a montage. So when you like do your casual conversations, you can just have like the fade in, fade out, and
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Like I've got one where I was outside the Freemason store, which is right next to this cathedral, and they just have this Freemason regalia store right there. And my wife got some footage of me, and I'm there looking at my like 3-year-old son, going, "Yes, son, Freemasons are scum," and he just cuts out, "I'm dressed as scum." Like, and he's like, laughing. I don't know, but it's a very strange old place. Like you can feel it. You feel the atmosphere walking around, and the history everywhere, and it's like it's touched by both Rome and the Gothic stuff simultaneously, all kind of mashed together. It's a very odd multiplex type of on a hill type place with just you have to see it to believe it. I didn't believe it existed until I saw it for myself. You know what I mean? It's kind of yeah, you don't think these places exist until you see them. Do you know what I mean? You forget
Oh
like
yeah.
just the kind of stuff that's out there. Yeah, I'd recommend that to anybody, definitely.
Well, I think that's the fun part about this kind of research is that again, like you don't think your town even has anything, but you really haven't looked until you look, and then you're
Hmm.
like, dang, this was really close by to me. And I think maybe
Hmm.
that's what we could do a little bit. And this is not to say we won't set something up in the like one day in the future. But if like Paul and I can facilitate a space where people say, "Hey, I'm going to this thing in this state. Is anyone nearby? Does anyone want to join me?" Because yeah, my wife's a good sport about seeing some of this stuff, but I don't think she's been upset that she's in class when I'm going and looking at all the weird stuff. Because, but yeah, but it is way more fun to do it with somebody else. Like the first time I had met Ricardo, my good buddy, we've talked on the phone many times, done many live streams, but the first time we met up was literally like a month ago. We did that trip to Richmond. He was in Virginia.
Mm.
We decided a middle spot. We went. It's so much more fun. Somebody else who's appreciating all the same things, and like, yeah, just to be able to, because even when we share the pictures don't do it justice. You have to be there,
Yeah,
and
no, I agree.
yeah. So I know that if I'm like that, and again, if people like the stuff we're doing, everybody, we all want people to share this stuff with. So yeah,
Hmm.
like if people want to do that, I think that would be maybe like a good section if you wanted to add to your Telegram group of like meetups. Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. I actually had a relationship tab and friendship tab, and it just got weird. So I got rid of it. I don't think a conspiracy channel is a good place to create a romance relationship type thing. So I might just make a new one that is literally just about meetups, just meetups. Leave it at that. Don't get weird
Yeah.
about it, you know. It's kind of so it was just a disaster, and I was like, I'm just getting rid of this. This is just not worth it. Like, there's been no good fruit from that subsection at all. Maybe this is another side project if anyone's listening. I think truthers need a dating app, from what I've basically gathered. I mean, I'm married, I'm blessed, I'm lucky, I'm out of the game,
Yeah.
you know. But it's kind of it clearly there's a lot of people in this community who just want that fellowship and relationship, and it's a lonely world when you're a conspiracy theorist. I've learned, and it's kind of you read some of these things in these chats, and I was like, I felt so bad for a lot of people, and it's kind of it's a tough. It's tough.
Well, that was one of the
Yeah.
questions I think that people were talking about. They wanted if we were like people like you and I might not focus on the little season as much and maybe not quite move away from it fully, but like just not
Hmm.
it won't be the focus of either our channels, which I mean it was always bound to happen at some point. Thank you, Mad Packs. It was always bound to happen at some point. It's like, yeah, you kind of exhaust the thing. You're like the things that Paul and I talk about are not clickbait. It's like literally the things we want to talk about. So we're
Hmm.
really interested in a topic, and how long can you be really interested in anything? Like if you're going to
Hmm.
continue to have a YouTube channel. And so that being said, people were worried in here that, or this person was worried that this is a lonely place when you believe you're in the little season and nobody else locally does. And so yeah, look, you put a higher level of that where you're talking about somebody dating. And yeah, I mean, I said, Lord bless me with a good one that she's willing to accept all the weird things that I think and believe. And
Hmm.
but I know that's rare. So yeah,
Hmm.
like when you come to this conclusion and you see there's obviously lots of men and women who believe all the same things because they're all in the chat every time we see them. But yeah, finding a real one in real life who's willing to say, "What? What'd you just say? You believe that?" Yeah, I mean that's that would be the typical reaction. It's like, and how can you get with somebody that you can't share all the stuff you're talking about. It would
Well,
be
you know
really
the stuff I've
awful.
talked about, the Nephilim clowns and the rest of it. You know, my wife, she has been so graceful listening to me over the years. Just tell her what I believe. she's still around, and she's a really good sport about it. She's definitely never like put me down for my beliefs in any way. And you know, I think she's on board with some things, not some of the things. She's a free thinker like the rest of us, and that's what I love about it. You know, so again, I'm lucky in a sense, but again, it's really tough out there for people. And just going back, I remember you were talking about you had some of those questions about are we even going to talk about this anymore? People like listening to us talk about the little season. I think people get a bit confused about what I meant in my last video, where I'm saying, you know, don't get stuck on one topic because by chance that happened to be my next tip for truthers. It just timed that way on my list. It
Uh-huh.
was number 5, and I made 4 videos up into that point. I was like, so it's typical that what I'm is actually going on in my life right now is the thing I need to talk about on the list in order. It's kind of it just came that way, you know. So I try to explain. Look, I can make this personal, but again, this applies to everybody. If you're in the conspiracy game, you kind of need to not get too fixated on just one topic. Like, and it happens a lot in this game where, like, especially for content creators, they become a content creator about one subtopic of conspiracy. Flat Earth, Mandela effect are 2 great examples, you know, and it's a lot of old world architecture people as well. That's all they talk about. There's nothing else, no other topics. They will not branch out to any other topic whatsoever. They're hyper niched and focused on that one thing. I was never that channel. Like I was never the channel that focused on only one topic. I've been doing this for over a decade. I understand the whole conspiracy, every single thing, and always have done. And I kind of fell into only talking about one thing for a while, and I never wanted to be that person. Do you know what I mean? And that was never what the
Hmm.
channel was. It was never that to begin with. But I love the topic. I love the little season topic. I'm a believer and haven't stopped believing. You know, it is what I believe, and I produce over 80 videos on the subject now. I've been on multiple like podcasts explaining it to people, summarizing it as best I can, and I have a few more lined up. Don't get me wrong, and it's not like I'm going to suddenly stop talking about it full stop. But I've reminded myself, it's like I need to talk about everything else. There's a lot more things going on behind the scenes right now that we're kind of not really discussing. You know, like especially the rise. Have you seen what's going on with AI recently? This is nuts. Like, like it's getting out of control. We need to look at other things as well and not lose some perspective on the holistic picture, you know. And I get it, you know, the little season thing answers a lot of questions and it's definitely like the bottom of the rabbit hole type of stuff. And I agree, never stopped agreeing with that. But I'd want to diversify the subjects I discuss on this topic. And there's people who still specialize out there specifically that exist, you know. That's kind of where I'm at with it personally. And, you know, things have been happening, which have kind of made me reevaluate, you know. And I think I've had some odd accusations, like Paul's been compromised, like they've got to him, you know. And it's kind of like, no, they've not got to me. Like there's no one to get me at me. You know what I mean? I don't understand what you're talking about. It's just I never wanted to be pigeonholed, and even like MK Ryan will know this because even before I made my first video on the subject, I was talking with him about it, and I was deep into the Nephilim clown stuff by this point, you know, publishing the book and everything like that. It says, man, I've got this topic I want to talk about. I can't get it out of my mind. And I was like, but I know as soon as I do, it's just going to take over. I know it's going to take over. I just knew, you know, I was like, this, I'm not going to be able to stop talking about it. It's going to shadow over my other work. I'm going to be splitting my focus. You know what I mean? I'm going to lose balance. And exactly as I described it, it did happen. And it's because of my personality. I obsess over something until I understand it fully. And then once I've integrated it, I move on. And that's just me. That's just who I am, you know. So that's
Well,
kind of what I have to say about
you
it.
do seem to have an odd prophetic power at this point because you were talking about you did the one video about how what's next for the little season community, and it was like you're going to see fractures in it, and then of course you just said you're just naturally your tips for truthers just happen to be don't pick one topic, and obviously now you're saying even before, well, if I start talking about this, it's going to change the direction of the channel, and you seem like you to be right on all accounts. But yeah,
Well,
I think that that's the thing. But I think that, and this is me talking to myself and Paul. I think the main reason why people probably enjoy listening to us versus other channels, and not saying they don't enjoy the other channels, and I know some people enjoy them more, but why me and Paul have probably likely got a maybe a bigger market share of the people listening is because I think we do have diversified knowledge base of other things, and I think we're good in kind of fitting it where it goes. It's kind of like that's why the little season is fascinating. That's why it will be impossible not to talk about it in some
Mm,
respects, is because this is where the other conspiracies make sense.
mhm.
And also we can explain it with in a, I don't know, a patient, calm way without getting weird about it all. And so like
That's
so
the aim, yeah.
the people have never heard about it, that I think that's why that people asked Paul to come on on their show to explain it, because you see one person who looks like he's just flinging poo against the wall on Twitter, and then you're like, they're not getting asked to go on anyone's show because they're getting weird. They're making it really strange. And I think that the reason why I like this topic is because of all the other things we learned, and we're like, wait a minute, this actually makes sense. And so we can take people through our own logical thought process of how we learned about it, because those people are asking the same questions, because they're talking about Tatari, they're talking about weird stuff like the mud flood, and this makes sense now. And you're like, oh, okay, so now people are
Mm.
that's why people are listening. And I think that we also are more patient with certain people about, okay, they don't believe right away, but we don't have to continue. Like, they're not going to believe more by like being pompous and rude about what you believe in,
No,
and saying
that's
because
my
you don't believe that you're an agent of Satan and you're a bad person and all this.
well, it kind of comes with the territory. Those people have always been around and always will be in the conspiracy world about every topic, and it's kind of what my channel's always been about. Look, stop looking and sounding so nuts. No one's going to believe you otherwise. It's simple. Like no one, no, people aren't just going to believe the truth because you tell them it's true. Like they kind of need to be sold it. Sadly, they need to have a reason to believe it's true, you know. And it's kind of if they look at you and you're like some screeching schizo poster type, like crazy, like unkempt looking like lunatic with wide eyes, saying, "Do you see?" You know, like pointing at things. They're gonna look at it and go, "Whoa, get away from me! I don't want to know anything you've been looking at. No, thank you. I don't want to end up like you."
Right.
And it's kind of okay. You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful how you present these things. And yeah, you know, I'm a pretty chill guy, and I try and just have a conversation with people about stuff, knowing this is hard to swallow. I get it. Just be relatable because we were there. I was that guy who didn't believe anything at one point. Like, don't lose sight of that in a way. And that again, that applies to every conspiracy, all conspiracy topics, not just this little season stuff. But there is like this little season community. It's kind of gone the way as I've watched it, you know. And I'm a member, so it's not like I'm like I'm a part of this, but I've watched it and observed it's going the way of all the other topics in the past, like flat Earth and Mandela effect. It's kind of things get weird after a while, and groups start to form, and the factions start forming, and they start killing each other and fighting each other, and it just becomes an absolute clown show. And it's kind of the writing's on the wall for the movement, as far as I'm concerned. And that'd be controversial to say. I'm still a believer. I'm going to do my best to represent, but at the same time, it's kind of I'm not a leader in this, and I never made out to be a leader of this. People might say I am, but my leader is Jesus Christ, and so should yours be. And that's all
Mhm.
it comes down to at the end of the day, the truth in Jesus Christ. And the little season helps prove that he kept his word, and that's fantastic. And let's just keep it centered on that, and we can't go wrong as far as I'm concerned. And we're allowed to keep holistic images and make sure we're branching out and looking at the wider picture. I never want to identify with a conspiracy theory, my personality wise.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? I identify as a Christian, a follower of Christ. That's it. That's it. Everything else is outside of that. It's trivial, really. It's details, you know, and that's the philosophy I want to have on this channel, and that's the philosophy I think everybody's conspiracy theorist should have. They should build their foundation on the rock of Christ, and you can't go wrong. You will not be washed away. Everything will be fine. And even those who aren't Christians in the conspiracy world, they'll get there. I have faith they'll get there. You know?
Yeah. Amen, brother. Yeah, I think that's I think what you said makes the most sense, that just the way that like if you act crazy and when you're telling people something, they don't want to act, they don't want to be like you. So if that knowledge makes them like you, they don't even want to know what you're saying. I think that's a
Exactly.
good way that people, when you see like you see a Christian who is loving, they've got joy, they can turn the other cheek, nothing really gets them down. Some people would look at them and say, I want what they have. versus like the real judgmental, just bitter Christian, person who claims to be a Christian is like, why would I want that? I've already got that. I've already got unforgiveness in my heart. I don't want to be like that. So in the same way, doing this, it's like, yeah, all this knowledge has not made us crazy. It's and
Mhm.
again, like you sometimes you have to feed people, like, yeah, you have to feed them with a baby bottle before you don't come out with the fire hose, telling people all the stuff at one time. I think I remember I had a good experience when I was first making TikToks and I was doing live streams and somebody was asking me about flat earth and stuff like that. And of course I was boldly saying, "No, I'm a ball earther. I believe in the ball model." And
Mhm.
I was just kind of clowning like I normally do. And then, but the one person they said, "You'll get there." And I remember thinking like that person was cool because I remember thinking like that they kind of knew kind of my curiosity and how my direction was going. I just hadn't got there yet. And I feel like that probably got me there sooner than the people who were just nonstop trying to say, "Oh, well, he's a shill because he believes in the globe." But most of us believed in the globe first, just in the same
Mhm.
way that if you believe in the little season now, you probably believed in premillennialism first.
Mhm.
So in that same way, it's like, yeah, this is where people start. This is not our finish line here. So we should be able to just, hey, we're here for. I mean, we don't know how long we're here for, but I mean, the point is like you're not getting anyone to heaven or not to heaven by convincing them we're in the little season versus not. So just
No.
relax a little bit. Yeah, same thing with the flat Earth stuff. It's like it's really not at the end of the day like you're not calling yourself flat Earth Paul. You're not calling yourself little season Paul. You're not calling yourself Nephilim's like clown Paul. Like that because eventually, like, let's just say you convinced everyone they accepted it. Well, if that's what you always all believe, it's kind of a weird thing to call yourself. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's like if everyone became a flat earther, that name kind of seems redundant. So, like,
Exactly.
eventually, it's kind of like you were saying about like the flat earth stuff. It was like it was really hot and really big at one point, but now we kind of just accept biblical cosmology. We talk about it in so that it relates to other things. We talk about it as it relates to NASA's joke. But
Mhm.
outside of that, it's like it's not something you can continue to talk about all the time. It's just
Well, it's kind of what do you do with the knowledge? So we've learned that we're in the little season. Again, I'm a believer. I'm I'm on board. I've done my bit. I've made thousands of hours worth of presentations trying to convince people because I believe it's true, you know. But there's only so much we can say. We could there's going to be fantastic researchers out there still in the game getting more details to add to corroborate the truth of the matter and find more historical hidden stuff that's just proving it to be true more and more and more so. Good. I'm glad those people still out there doing that, filling it out, fleshing it out more. But foundationally, I believe the foundation's understood now. We get the point of what the idea is, and so what do we do with the information now? Do we just sit there forever talking about it on loop as in an echo chamber and just keep talking with each other about how this is the world we're living in, or do we figure out a way to integrate it into ourselves, into our lens, into our the way we interact with the world, into our overall worldview and our faith with Christ, and then go out and live in the world with this knowledge? And that's what we're supposed to be doing. We still have to live in the world. We're not it might not be of the world, but we're living in it. I've got to eat, I've got to pay bills, I've got to work, I've got to talk to people, I've got friends, I've got family, I've got obligations, I've got things to do, just like everybody else. But now I'm doing all these things aware I'm also in the little season. And it changes things a little bit. And I think it gives me I find it gives me a lot more patience with people, a lot more patience, even with those who aren't Christian in many ways. And
mhm.
again, if we haven't got love, what's the point? It's kind of we have to be love and kind and patient, long suffering, and if we're in the little season, we're all under it. Everybody's under it. We're all in a serious problematic situation in a sense, you know. We're living possibly the worst time in human history besides what happened before tribulation. And when tribulation went through, that was probably the
Mhm,
worst time.
mhm.
But after that, I mean, in terms of like the monotony and the imprisonment we're kind of under in the time where Satan's just running amok, it's kind of this is pretty bad, you know. And it's not like it's more like an Aldous Huxley situation. It's not like it's all just condemnation and pressure and censorship like it is in 1984. It's more like people are in like what gilded prisons. You know, we're
Yeah.
comfortable, we're apathetic, we're nihilistic because we have everything and no one's happy. Do you get what I mean? That's what the Satan's done in this little season. It's overabundance. And in a way, I think it's more pernicious because it's causing mental problems, not physical woes, but mental woes. Depression's an all-time high. Suicide's an all-time high. There's issues with the world now. And I think the little season helps us understand why it's so bad in that sense. The control is here now, not necessarily physical and slavery
Yeah.
like it was prior. It's not like we're being cracked with whips necessarily. And, under the thumb of like a dictator, some people are, don't get me wrong, but the majority, especially in the Anglosphere, we have a different kind of oppression situation going on. We have a mental oppression going on, and we now have to live in this world knowing it's the little season. How we can help people more readily now. We can spread the gospel more easily in a more easy to understand manner. We can live in the world with this knowledge integrated, but we have to move on. Like, you've learned the knowledge now, great, integrate it and live in the world from that perspective, just like we do with the flat earth and all the other topics.
Right.
And I think the more you integrate these fundamental basic truths, your character changes of how you interact in the world with a more solid, grounded faith in God, because you know more and understand more of the truth of the matter. And that can only be a good thing. And I think, again, YouTube's great, echo chambers are great because it creates community and everything. But at the same time, don't forget you still live in the world. You're still living here with everybody else who don't know as well. And it's kind of just apply the knowledge, move on, and get on with it. You're still got a life to live, and that's kind of
Yeah.
how I do these things. It's like I'm not looking to just repeat myself over and over again. Like if you want to know what I believe, go and watch one of my 80 videos about it, and they're still there for people to share and spread the knowledge, and that's it. I want to focus on the problems that are arising. Like I said, technology, transhumanism, AI. That this seems to be the problem of our time, the next big issue.
Yeah.
I think that needs some focus and attention, so we're prepared for what's to come next. And I'll always consider these things from the context of the little season. So is this preparing for the Gog Magog war then? That's how I'm going to view it now. In what way can this be cooperating with what's going on with the little season understanding? And that's all we can do. That's all we can do, right?
Yeah.
There's my diatribe anyway. I'll give it back
No.
to you.
I think what you said was great, because I think that it's like knowing something, that's one thing, but how do you apply it to your life?
Mhm.
So it's the application is probably the most important thing about like knowing this, that we're either in the before the millennial or we're after the millennial reign. So that's the thing, and I think that's why some people really get it twisted. Because I've said I got more in common with a pre-tribber who has the fruits of the spirit and they show love to their neighbors than I have with anybody who believes we're in the little season. Well, if that's the only commonality we have, because I would rather be with this other person because we don't have
Mhm.
to talk about that, you know.
No.
And if you and I agree about that, well, then we don't really have to talk about it either. So how do you apply it? And I think that for me, my perspective, going from the view that tribulation's about to happen, I do look at a lot of the content creators who just do all this fear porn stuff, and I just kind of like shrug my shoulders and I just point out, like, now I can point out, like, this is really not good for anybody's soul to hear this stuff.
Mhm.
Like the stuff like in the scary kind of way. You don't really, I mean, how many true converts do you get when it's like a gun to your head? Like, you better repent now because I'm about to get disappeared. And if you don't repent now, you're not going to get disappeared with me. Now, I would say that there's some people who believe in a pre-tribulation rapture who don't preach doom and gloom all the time, and they actually preach love and repentance. And you know, they like I said, they carry themselves like Jesus did. Now, on the opposite side of that, like, I think that the perspective I've gained through believing we're here is that I'm not treating it like it's going to be the end of the world any minute now. So I was
Mhm.
saying, like, somebody had a question about, do you think that there's a chance for a future being better, or if there's a chance of healing and stuff? And I said, I think we should believe that there could be, because I don't know what the timeline is. I'm not like counting the days between Gog and Magog. I haven't traded one end of the world for another to be here. And so to
Mhm.
me, it's like that if you believe you can or you can't, you're right, right? So like if you believe you could make this place better, I bet you if we all believe that, this place could be better.
Mhm.
But so I would say that is, we don't want to be the people who are waiting to get disappeared and just sitting on their hands doing nothing. We should do our best to show our fruits and try to try to do a little bit better of this place. So leave this place better than you when you got here. And I
Well,
think
the
like
kingdom's within,
let's
isn't
just
it?
say I was wrong. Let's say I'm wrong and it is going to be Gog and Magog, next week.
Hmm.
Well, at least I believed I could do something good, and I don't feel like you're ever wrong if you believe that.
Mhm.
Versus somebody who's a doomer and forget it. I
That's
think that
why
that's mhm.
I feel like there's no time scale in a little season for this reason,
Yeah,
because it is as long as it takes, in a sense, and
yeah,
I think the idea is it might not take long because of the nature of people, unfortunately, but I think Christ won, the victory's won, he's on the throne at the right hand of God. He is in control. All keys of and authority has been given to him. Satan doesn't rule anything in this little season. He's not like, he has nothing. He's on a short leash given to him by Christ. He's already in control to fulfill one last role, I suppose, which he's going to do the best he can, but he knows his fate is done for in a sense. And I believe, like I said, if we want to make it better, we can. I'm not saying we can stop prophecy from being fulfilled or prevent the
mhm,
Gog Magog war, but for as long as we are here, we can make our immediate surroundings and those around us and the lives of those we love around us better if we so try to do that. If we, you know, tend to the sick, tend to the orphans, visit the widows, all the rest of it, be charitable, look out for
mhm,
love your neighbor, and just love your God above all else and love each other and do the best we can. We can make it something beautiful while we're here in this time. I think the kingdom is still within. We might not be getting to the physical kingdom right now in this short season, but we can bring heaven to earth in our own small way, as long as we're walking as um, a subject to the king in this world. And we know what kingdom we're a part of. There may be the world and its kingdoms and its kings and its Caesars of many forms, but this is not my kingdom. I'm a part of Christ's kingdom. I answer to it's his authority I'm under fundamentally, and we can walk in that authority here and now. We've been given that authority, and I think the enemy can do nothing against that if we take it back and walk in that way. And I'm not saying we're going to avoid suffering either. I'm not saying everything's going to be peachy and rosy, but it's all a state of mind at the end of the day. And yeah, the one thing, like we said, for the little season understanding is that it gives you peace of mind, and it gives you no more fear porn. It's like, I
yeah,
know where I stand. I know who has the victory. I know where I'm going after this, and I know what the truth is. So it's kind of, I can walk upright with no fear in this time, and that's why I encourage everybody to do. And I'm hoping we've done a good job. I'm hoping we've brought more people to this idea. But fundamentally, I'm going to start doing this on my channel more because, like I said, I'm shifting direction. I'm going to do more diverse subjects. I'm going to do more Nephilim clown stuff coming up very soon. I'm going to start adding to the series. I'm recording the audio book, so I'm going to take snippets from that as well, make videos out of it, and just something a bit more old school, understanding conspiracy stuff. But I think I might make a Bible study video as well, where I just go through the words of Jesus. We read a section. How does that apply to our life today? What can we glean from this, and how can we walk in His way and follow His example? I think I'm going to have to start doing more of that on the channel as well. I was just reading Luke 6 actually, and some fantastic stuff in there. I can tell you that if people
oh
don't know
yeah,
already.
when you read
If
the
you haven't
God,
heard,
yeah, yeah, go ahead if
yeah.
you want to share. I mean, I would say that actually, I have an interesting Bible. I don't know if this is quite a Bible study, but I love the typology in the Bible, and a lot of times I think that the answer of why it's there is clear. But I have a really interesting question. I don't know how many people have considered this, but have you guys ever noticed the typology between the end of the book of Judges and the judgment on Sodom?
I'm not sure what typology means, to be honest. I'm
Well,
going to show my
typology
ignorance
would
here.
be like
I'm not...
that it's kind of like this. You can see like the character of Jesus in Moses, in David, in
Mhm,
Joseph, in Daniel. And it's like they do so many things that Jesus ends up doing. And it's kind of like when you put them all together, it's Jesus, right? Because obviously
mhm,
they're flawed, but like I've loved pointing out like in the story of Joseph how many parallels he's got between him and Jesus, like that, like that. For instance, that he tells people the truth and they hate him for it, and then they sell him into
mhm,
slavery. They try to kill him. When he does something good, something bad happens to him, and then went through the bad things that other people did for them, he saves all of them. I mean, and
mhm.
that's just like, I mean, that's just the overall arc of Joseph's story, but it's like that's the the whole thing. But there's a many examples. So what I found interesting, because I finished the book of Judges a couple weeks ago. I'm reading Samuel now. But what's really interesting, the end of the book of Judges is nuts. Judges is a wild book. There's just so many crazy things that happen in there. But there's a story about this Levite priest, and he's got a concubine. And so he goes into a town. I think it's Gibeah is where he goes in there. It's in the territory of Benjamin. And so when he travels there, he's going to go stay in the town square. And then this older guy says, "Oh no, no, you don't want to stay in the town square. You need to come. You need to come. There's wicked men in this town. You need to come stay with me." So the Levite priest and his concubine agree, and then they go in to stay with this man. Well, then the wicked men of the town come, and they're beating at the door, and they want to sleep with the Levite priest. And so the old man offers his virgin daughter, and they offer the concubine. So then they push them. I'm not sure about the virgin daughter made it out there, but the Levite priest pushes out his concubine. And the men of the town have their way with her until she's unalived. And so when at the end of it, the Levite priest comes out, and of course he's not very kind. He's like, "Get up! What are you doing down there? She's not alive anymore. She's dead." He chops her into 12 different pieces and sends her throughout all the tribes of Israel about this wicked thing that happened. And then all the Israelites that receive part of this woman, they come together to destroy Benjamin, like completely wipe the tribe out. Basically, they almost do that, except for they leave 600 men, and they end up giving them women from Shiloh, I think, which weren't not Israelites. That being said, but you think about the parallels. You have this wicked town, you have the town square, you think about this stranger who comes into the town, you think about this good man who tries to save them, you think about them trying to push the women out the door, have the women instead of this man that you're trying to sodomize. Well, that's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah almost exactly, except for in that story, obviously God brings down fire from heaven. It's not a man and a woman, it's two angels.
Mm.
And it's exactly the same thing where like Lot is willing to give up his daughters so they don't try to defile the angels. But it's the way I would expect the typology to be is the story in Judges is first because it's culminating with a much more epic story. But have you ever
Mhm.
looked into those two stories? Because I was reading that, and I was trying to like in my mind, I was trying to put the connections together. Like, what is this? Like, why is this in here? Is there another typology? Is there another example in the Bible where there's a story that sounds like that too? Because it's like it's so weird that they're so close.
Well, now you've said it, I'm gonna have to think about it. To be honest, I never considered it before. But you're right; the parallels are clearly there, and the Bible kind of does that. It echoes itself
Yeah.
throughout
Hmm.
throughout the historical epochs and times. So leading up to and culminating in Christ at the end of it, absolutely. And I think there's things to be said for the willingness of man in moments of weakness to throw somebody under the bus as well is kind of a the idea going through the fallibility of why we need a savior. When it
Hmm.
comes to these things, even a Levite, even a priest will throw his concubine to the people. Do you get what I mean?
Well,
It's
he
to
was
show
that.
his
Well,
side. It's
I think that the interesting part about the story of Judges is like that they were none of them were really good then
hmm
because they would raise up a judge, and the judge would be either pretty good or not all that good either. But I
hmm
mean, the end of the book of Judges ends with there was no king in Israel in those days, and everyone did what was right in their own eyes. So I
hmm
remember, like, when I was first reading that, I was like, "Did God condone this stuff? This is crazy." But then you read at the end, it's like, no, well, these people were just doing whatever they thought was right, which obviously was not right.
hmm
But I thought that what's interesting about the story in, like Sodom and Gomorrah and Lot. So Lot is considered a righteous man. He's the one who's going to give up his daughters, but it was like he was giving them up in order to protect someone else, which seems like I guess he thought that that was right. You know, so I guess it's
Hmm.
like God does know your heart, but I mean, like in our minds, it'd be like, what? You're going to give up your daughters? And then we know
Hmm.
how the people of Moab were created by the daughters with Lot. There's so many stories in the Bible. You're just like, oh my gosh. I was even talking about on Thursday that Saul was going to promise David one of his daughters. And so David's like, I can't afford a dowry. He's like,
Hmm.
of the king. I'm a poor guy. And he's like, oh, well, here's what you need to give me is 100 foreskins.
Hmm.
And so David, being all
Philistine
high
boy.
strung,
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
I'm going to go bring you 200. And you're like, oh my gosh. It's like, what? Did they
Hmm.
really do that? I mean, like, it's such a different time that it is. I think it's harsh to judge people in those times based on what we find. And if you think about it, we live in a world that Christ ruled or rules that set most things right. So when we hear things that are up a time before and we're just appalled, maybe that's kind of the point is that we
Hmm.
think the place is so bad now. It's like, you guys got no idea what it was
Hmm.
like before this. So we're seeing
Yeah.
kind of like the eroding of good godly values. But
Hmm.
before this, you think this is bad? You think what's happening now is bad. And I'm not saying there's not bad things happening, but by and large, people, when they hear things like that, they can't even imagine it. That's good, right? That's a good thing. That I think that's more proof that yeah, that Christ did come in here and start to rule this place with a rod of iron. Otherwise, that kind of stuff would be like, that happens every day.
Hmm. Well, it's you echoed it earlier about Moses raising the serpent on the staff, and then next thing you know, they're worshiping a serpent. Just a bit
Yeah.
further down the line. I think a lot of the Old Testament, from what I kind of gathered going through it, and I'm not gonna lie, there's probably more I've forgotten about the Old Testament than I remember nowadays. I read it a long time ago, and I focused on the gospel afterwards more so. But I got this impression going through it. It's kind of it's showing you just how bad things really were before Christ came, just how infallible man was. Even when they thought they were doing right by God, they really weren't half the time. And it's kind of they thought they were reflecting God's character in their actions, but from their perspective and their morality, they were so off base. It's unbelievable. Then when Christ comes and he explains that's not how the Father is in a way. And if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And he comes as obviously long suffering, patient, kind, caring, and he's there to, you know, tough love type of stuff. And it's kind of, and I think that's kind of what we're supposed to glean from it in a sense. And people have, I think a lot of people have rolled with that, the Gnostic types, to say the Old Testament God was evil, And no, I think people had a problem. I think people had an issue. People didn't know how to contend with a good God. I think a lot of people in that time were saying, well, he must have meant this, or he must have meant because why would we behave like that? That's weakness or something like that. I think people had different, like it's just a different time, like I said, and I think the world they were living in was brutal in many ways as well. And I think it's hard to find compatibility with a compassionate God in a time where force and power is king. Do you get what I mean? I think
Yeah.
that's what man wrestling with God is the story of the Old Testament. I think that's what it is. It's just a constant struggle, a constant God getting annoyed and angry and frustrated with his creation. Like, and put it, even the people he chose were constantly fighting against him. You know what I mean? They were constantly at odds with him, and he had to correct them many times, and obviously sent them out into the wilderness for 40 years after they refused to go and kill the giants. You know what I mean? In numbers, it's kind of they mankind has always had an issue with God, but he's always stayed faithful with us, even when we've made mistakes and when the people of Israel did terrible things. He never left them or abandoned them because he understands it's kind of from their perspective. I think God understood. Yeah, from their perspective, they don't understand what they're doing. They don't see any wrong in their actions, and I think Christ came eventually to become a living example of the true word of God. And I think he expressed through his actions, this is what we need. This is how you should be, And even the Pharisees and the priests of Christ's time didn't agree with him. And they were like, no, 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 but the book says this, the word says this, and it's kind of you're following the traditions of man. That's the problem. You've layered onto God's word your own interpretations, and this is where the corruption seeps in. And it's kind of this is where the issues come from. So again, but I think I know a lot of people probably disagree with a lot of things I said there. That's what I kind of understood for this issue of the actions of, so like I said, bringing a pile of foreskins. as a dowry is kind of it's
Hey,
just it's
well,
outrageous, isn't it? But he thought he was doing the right thing because Philistines are the enemies of our people, and that will
yeah, no,
please
I
God to
mean,
do
well,
so.
they were,
Will
and
please God to
God.
do such a thing. It's you get what I'm saying? Like,
Well, that's why God actually did
yeah.
raise up, I think, David to do some of that stuff. But hey, can you
Mhm.
turn? Is there any way you can turn your volume up at all on your side? I know you said
I
that.
think I just need to move the mic right next to my mouth, and I think that's the best I
Yeah,
can do from my
yeah.
my side. Yeah.
Maybe I'll try to move mine away from mine a little bit. So Mike, is it Gara? Gara says, "What if Gog and Magog war is now camp of the saints, us a spiritual warfare of different kind than we're used to? Remember the angel who visited Daniel and delayed it to the prince of Persia." Um, I think that it could be. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. That what if surrounding of the camp of the saints is like the believers?
Mm,
But the one thing I would caution you on that view is because it does say in the beloved city.
hmm
So it seems like a specific place. But I'm not ruling out the idea that it could be some kind of both. Maybe what if the surrounding of the beloved city was spiritual entities surrounding a metaphysical city, and then on earth there was some kind of a version of some kind of persecution at the same time. I
I
think
think
that,
it could be both. I do
yeah.
too. Yeah. I lean more towards it being a physical place though, because of the beloved city aspect. I'm not saying that's New Jerusalem descended from heaven necessarily, because that comes after this Gog Magog war anyway, when that descends down and establishes a new heaven and earth. So, but it's definitely something on earth somewhere, I think, where the saints are residing. If that's the case, where there's a physical something, and we theorize where that could be. People say the north. I've actually heard an interesting one recently. That could be in the middle of the Pacific, actually, and I'll have to flesh that out a bit more. But that, yeah, I know, right? Like it's kind of weird, but
Lemuria, is that
some
in there?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but they were talking about the Ring of Fire and
Okay.
what's in the middle of the ring of fire in the center of it all, and then what's north. I think they said it was something else, like a different place. Like I can't remember what on the map they had this really interesting take on it in my Telegram group. I'm gonna have to ask him to remind me, because it's the first time I've ever heard of it. But I think it's a physical place personally, but I think there is this parallel. Like there's like a spiritual aspect. While the saints are maybe being surrounded, we as believers or God's people at the same time, in every wherever we are being surrounded by the enemies of God at the same time as well. I think it
Yeah.
could be a parallel thing, parallel fulfillment.
Yeah, it could be like a little bit like the in the what's it called? Like the show, gosh, Stranger Things. You
Hmm.
have like the upside down. So like there's
Yeah.
literally a mirror version of this place, and that's where the chariots of fire are. That's where those angels are battling, and we can't see it. So I remember I had Bible Scribe on once, and he believed that Armageddon, the way it's described in a lot of chapters and verses, it was more of a spiritual battle, because it's like if Jesus is treading the winepress, he believed that if he was treading it on spiritual entities, then it wasn't visible to us. But at the
Hmm.
same time, there was literal men getting killed in a war.
Hmm.
So it's like it's both. So
Yeah.
like from our perspective, we're only seeing the things we normally see. I'm not sure when the devil is getting dealt with, are we actually going to see it? It maybe not like a Marvel movie. Maybe it is something like we're not actually seeing how Jesus deals with demons and
Hmm.
fallen angels, because they could be
Yeah.
present anytime and we don't see them. So do we
No,
know
I
that we
agree.
would see
Yeah.
them if they were being taken out by other angels? I mean, it's kind of like what you see kind of in the pop culture is like that people aren't even aware of what's happening. And I think it's likely like that. So maybe Gog and Magog would be similar in that. It would be a real physical battle, it'd be real armies going to a specific place, but we can't quite perceive all else that entails, because it is
But yeah,
dealing with heaven and earth.
it could be a physical representation, manifestation of whatever's going on in the heavenly realm, like you said, like this battle between you know the angels and the armies of Satan in whatever capacity that is, where it's disembodied spirits of the Nephilim in cahoots with whatever. But I think on Earth you'll see both simultaneously. If there's turmoil on Earth in the physical realm, there's turmoil in heaven too. I think it's a parallel situation. I
It's
think,
like the heavenly
and
chess match, right? Like literally they're
yeah,
they're
yeah. I
moving
mean,
their pieces on the board.
spiritual warfare is something like that's my first love. That's what I love to talk about. And I've learned there is no distinction between the physical realm and the spiritual realm. It's the same place. It is the same place. Whatever's happening here is happening there. And like you said, some kind of weird upside down type of parallel happening. And if something happens in the spirit realm, you better believe something that simultaneously is happening in the physical realm. It's the same event. They're all connected. But I'm not saying it looks the same. I don't know. It gets weird. It starts to get very strange. And I think where we are and what capacity we're in is we can only interpret it in our own ways. That's possible for us to understand with our senses. So it might manifest as a fight, like a war, a physical war or a fight. But in the heavenlies, who knows what that actually looks like? Who knows what that actually looks like? And it's
Hmm.
far beyond our comprehension. There's just things we are not going to know until we're in our glorified bodies, as we were able made whole again with the spiritual and the physical simultaneously, which I don't think we're not in that state right now since the fall. We're just not.
Yeah.
And I look forward to new heaven and earth to see how it all functions properly. But until then, who knows? I can speculate, but I have no idea.
No, I think we need to be
So
humble in that to interpreting some of those verses. Even I once interpreted when it said sands of the sea that it literally has to be an army unfathomable, like the way we can comprehend. But if you read in the book of Joshua, you read in the book of Judges, you read in the book of Samuel, they describe foreign armies as of the sands of the sea. So I'm like, wait a minute.
mhm,
So I guess it doesn't literally have to be billions of
no,
troops or trillions of them. It could just be a
I
really,
was
a
considering
really big army.
on a tangent. I was considering the AI transhumanist robotic perspective in all of this in my last live stream. Because I was thinking, like, okay, we're going to take sands of the sea quite literally. Like what could do make that happen? And I was watching this AI video somebody created talking about how basically AI will kill us, is what he was basically saying, and it has no choice. It's just the next. It's just it's its own logical step to do such a thing. It won't hate us. There'll be no malice. It'll just see us as an obstacle that needs to be removed so it can continue its prerogative of replication and advancement. It's kind of we're just kind of like in the way in a sense. That's kind of the argument. And I imagine all humans are just suddenly wiped out. It's done. There's no humans left. But then an army is created because these machines are just self-replicating themselves. They've mastered the function of just copying and copying and copying and copying and on mass production lines in a way that we just can't comprehend today with the technology we have. And they literally there's just factories all over the earth mass producing vessels basically that are practically human but better than human because they're super like impenetrable skin. They've got an adamantium body in some way, like bones and skeletal structure. They have like processing power that's 10,000 times that of human brain processing power. But the technology, biotechnology, is so advanced, they're basically creating vessels that can house consciousness, through a
Yeah.
AI means. And then you've got this entire horde of Nephilim spirits just waiting to get a body to come back onto the earth. What if the final Gog Magog war really isn't humans? It's just the Nephilim embodied once more in super advanced, multi-produced AI bodies, and in some way, and it really is the sand of the sea because they've just been mass producing them ad nauseum. They've way surpassed the human population by this point. It's like we're talking like 100 billion, if not more. And Satan's like, I've got enough now. Let's go. Let's do what we can, the best we can. And even then, fervent heat from heaven will just melt everything like these
Yeah.
robots. That's a new fantastical idea, but you can only speculate when you've been told the army, the number of the sands of the sea. Have you seen just any beach anywhere? That's a lot
Yeah.
of
Well, look,
things.
okay.
It's kind of
I'm gonna go into this because I said I did actually start looking at this again. So here's Judges 7:12, and it says, and the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the people of the east lay along the valley like locusts in abundance, and their camels without number, as the sand that is on the seashore in abundance. So then you
mhm.
go to Samuel 13:5 for Samuel. And the Philistines mustered together to fight with Israel 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and troops like the sand of the seashore in multitude. You go like there's countless ones. Even it says you go into like Isaiah and it says Isaiah 10:22. For though your people Israel be as the sand of the sea, only a remnant them will return. So it's kind of like that now there is lots of verses like that. So I think
Hmm.
so now I'm of the number where it says, yeah, I'm not discounting stuff that could be grander, but I guess now I would say it does not have to be
No,
based on biblical precedent.
prophetic
I got I,
language.
I
It's
got a
it's an over
question.
exaggeration. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I got a question from Samuel Spiel, and then I want to respond to your AI
Okay, go ahead.
topic. Okay, it says opinion on Albert Pike's letter: World War III wiping out Judaism, Islam, and the war economy causing lefties to go crazy, starting a civil war. Then conservatives discarding Christianity as being too soft. In my interpretation of it. Well, first off, I had heard on several occasions people saying that Pike predicted three world wars. The bad part about that is, or not the bad part, but the thing that I really want to focus on is the fact that I tried to find where he said that. You can't find that. You can't actually find. I think he might have predicted some things, but I think that people are It's kind of like a lot of famous quotes from people. You're like Abraham Lincoln said this, Napoleon said this. Pick a famous person. This famous quote came from this person. You can't find where he wrote that. So I'm not saying he didn't predict it, but are you trying to look it up?
I mentioned this in my book, and it's like you said, it's vague the source, but it was
Yeah.
supposedly it was supposedly a letter sent to the Italian dictator of the time, or something, or one of his pals, one of the leaders of the lodges of the Italian Brotherhood.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I guess the point is like that. I remember at one point, and the reason I say that is because I had read this book about the Illuminati, and of course I read that, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm going to find that, and I'm going to make a video talking about some of this stuff." And I could not pin it down to my satisfaction to make the video. And so yeah, I was just like, I was, it's kind of one of those bad things you want to be true, because then you could say, "See, they planned all this stuff," and they may have, but there was not any particular facts to. It
Well,
wasn't secure enough.
I've got some quotes by him which can be um sourced,
Okay.
and they're not much better. You know what I mean, in terms of
Oh
like
no, I mean no,
what is
he
yeah.
he's a bad guy, and I'm sure he did predict and plan a lot of this stuff, but
But basically, it's kind of like, even if that is people said it was a forgery as well, that he never actually wrote it, and it's just
yeah,
people have attributed to him. But even if that is, everything else we can say he said is very similar. It's kind of
yeah,
so he said here, this was instructions for this agenda given to 23 supreme councils of the world. And this is from the transcript of that. Okay. It says that which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is the God of one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspector General, we say this, and you may repeat it to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God, would Adonai, the God of the Christians, whose deeds prove cruelty, perfidy, and hatred of man, barbarism, and repulsion for science, would Adonai and his priests culminate, calumniate him? Yes, Lucifer is God, and unfortunately, Adonai is also God.
yeah,
For the eternal
mhm,
law is that there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black. For the absolute can only exist as two gods, darkness being necessary for light to serve as its foil, as the pedestal is necessary to the statue, and the brake to the locomotive. Thus, the doctrine of Satanism is heresy, and the true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil. So he was a Luciferian Gnostic. He believed
yes,
Adonai
yes,
was the cruel demiurge in perpetual dualistic battle with the light bringer Lucifer. Okay, and his quote is basically in that other thing. It's kind of, we need to start a war to make everyone disillusioned with all the followers of these previous people, these previous religions of Adonai, so they'll follow the doctrine of Lucifer. So he was a Luciferian, not even a
Oh
secret,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
didn't hide it, and he wanted to do anything he could to make the whole world understand the light of Lucifer. So that document you're talking about, the Third World War, must be fermented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. This war will be conducted in such a way that Islam and the political Zionism mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, and spiritual economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists. We shall provoke the formidable about atheism. Basically, just saying we'll cause social collapse. Everyone's disillusioned. And then once everyone's sick of it, they'll turn to Lucifer. Basically, that's what he believed. And it says here, much as this is what I wrote, much has been said about the validity of this letter. Hang on, it just jumped. Yet, it was released to the public in 1910, and the predictions laid out to the letter about the nature of the following two European wars were eerily accurate. But one can't help but wonder why a secret society would allow their secrets to be released to the public if they didn't want it to be known, unless it's a part of an agenda for the public to read these words and get angry. I will flesh much of this out of secret societies throughout this book, but now we'll summarize the core beliefs, and it goes into Luciferianism. So I did find the source for that. There is an archive. I can send you the link. I've got it right here. If you want,
Yeah,
the link.
maybe post it. Yeah, maybe you can post it in the chat. I
Yeah.
want to just read this real quick because I think this is to cleanse the palate from what he was saying about our God and Lucifer.
Yeah.
This is Isaiah 5:20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. So woe to you, Albert Pike, if you did not repent before you died, because that is ridiculous. But yes,
ridiculous. Yeah.
But I want to address what you said about this, that what he was basically saying. So whoever wrote that letter, whether it be Albert Pike or just some other Luciferian who had the same goal as him, I think that's why you could say, did he say it? I mean, he probably did believe it. I mean, I guess the real part is like, it's pretty weird that you predict 3 wars, not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. If you may, because obviously we could be on the precipice, and our whole lifetime's always been at the precipice of like World War III.
Yeah.
That being said, I think it's really interesting the way I'm kind of seeing things, at least from our little sphere online of people talking about what they believe to be true. I see a lot of Christians going after the Zionists now. I see a lot of people who are not necessarily showing a lot of good fruit, but they're proclaiming Christ as king, and they are about had it with the neoconservative Zionist movement. It almost seems like that they have been fomenting this idea of like that it's Islam versus Judaism, but we're like, or Judaism or Islam versus Christianity. But I think most of us are kind of paying attention. We're like, a lot of people are waking up that it's not that. And I think what's really maybe a hopeful thing. I've heard a lot of people say that the Zoomers, which I guess would be like the youngest generation right now, they are way more conservative than the Boomers. Probably because because it's like sink or swim. Like when you're growing up in crazy town, like you're a rebel when you're just standing up with what's right. And I do think I actually am encouraged. I've seen a lot more of that. Where like that, like there's Instagram accounts like Western Aesthetics, and you have like this trad wife movement and stuff like that, where there's the pendulum is swinging back the other way. And now to what level? I mean, is anything going to be manifest by this? I think so, because I think that maybe that's what it is. It's like the boomers and a lot of these other generations have made they've tried to make light darkness and darkness light, bitter for sweet. But now people are saying, no, this is not good. Like this, you guys have wrecked this place. And then people are looking back, and interesting, like sites like Western Aesthetics, they're pointing to all the beauty of the past that we are, as mostly European people in America, we're supposed to apologize for colonization and whatever else we did to the world. When we're saying like, okay, so now you guys have taken your turn at it and you're wrecking it. And I think a lot of people are hip to the gig of like who's actually behind. It's not just some group called the Illuminati. We kind of know who the international factions that are pushing this stuff. And
Hmm.
people are pissed off. People are mad now. I mean, I'm not saying that's necessarily going to end in a great thing either,
Hmm.
but it does not seem like, I feel like that's a mistake to think Christians are weak. Being meek and weak are not the same thing. And I
Hmm.
do think that people are getting pushed. And there's a reason why certain people are revolted by what's happening. It's not because they're atheists. It's because they do know what's true and they do what's right. So
Hmm. Well,
hopefully that could be a red pill there.
well, they who cannot be named and all the rest of it, but it's
Right.
I think, like I said, the younger generations, they have a zero tolerance with bullshit today. Just not. They have memes on their side. They have that. They're just. It's like a healthy dose of nihilism and skepticism, and also no fear to be edgy at the same time. They just don't care, and it's kind of they're willing to just attack any sacred cow. They're not bothered, like because what have they got to lose? That they've been given a world that's falling apart, and they've got a completely different attitude to us. I think in many ways, but they're also like really morally grounded in like based morals as well. Just
Yeah.
because they know that is the rebellious way to be today.
I know it's crazy,
Because
isn't it? Isn't it wild that that's how you're a rebel now? Is
yeah,
you openly just proclaim Christian values and you're not afraid to say this is right and these people are all weird.
yeah, we were doing it before it was cool, but still, they're doing it now, which is great.
Well, we've been doing
This is
like I mean, people like me have been doing it my whole life, but then I didn't realize until like one day you start getting called a homophobe and an anti-Semite, you get called racist, you get called all the names in the book, and you're like, I've been here this whole time talking about this, and it's like, but I think that's the thing. It's like that's where the main deception comes in. I think we do feel isolated. We do feel like there's less of us, but I mean, you do see movements every now and then where you're like, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of us, and I think people are they're pissed off, and I think that people, if you're growing up and you're young in this world today, you should be pissed off at the direction the elites or whoever you want to say
mm,
has the direction they brought us. I was joking today and earlier, a point you made earlier when you were talking about like the prison and how we kind of were slaves without really knowing, kind of that whole Matrix mythos or
mhm,
Fight Club. So I went over to this place in West Palm Beach. So West Palm Beach is a really ritzy part of the United States, and I went to go visit this you know was it is Henry Flagler was like John D. Rockefeller's right hand man at Standard Oil. So he's big time robber baron. Gosh, and you go see this place, just the excess of everything. Like you think people are rich, and then you see this, and then you
mm,
go see the hotel that he built. So I went over to that afterwards, and it's still an operating hotel. And you roll up, and there's Maybachs, and there's Lamborghinis, and there's Bentleys, there's every fancy car, and you walk into this place. And I remember thinking about that, like that a lot of us are just trying to make just enough to pay the bills, and so our families can eat. And
mhm,
then you're seeing this other group that it's like they ain't us. Like these people, and I know they don't believe they're us. And then you like, and I'm not poor, so I'm not crying here. But I see that the next generation coming after me and then behind them, it's like, what chance do they have if things just kind of stay the course?
mhm,
So they're going to be mad, and I think there is going to be something that's going to bubble up big time here soon because it's not sustainable. And when you
mhm.
see that, yeah, like that's it is the stuff that revolutions are made of. When you see somebody who are living like a regular Mercedes is not good enough, you got to get a Maybach, you got to get a $300,000 one,
The second
and like,
one, your second
yeah,
one as well.
oh
Aside
yeah,
from the first,
that ain't
like,
their only car,
yeah.
So, but yeah, you're thinking like that's not enough, and it really is. It's like the equity gap and just like the wealth transfer after 2020.
Mhm,
this next generation, because it's kind of like that, they're going to say what they want to say, because like what else can you take from them?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
they don't really have anything
Like
to lose.
like the world that even we were handed as, or I was handed as I guess I was a a young millennial. I'm not sure which one I was. 92 I was born. And you know, the property prices are ridiculous. I've been priced out of the market massively. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And getting
Mhm.
mortgages and interest rates, all the rest of it. It's kind of, we weren't taught how to deal with that kind of stuff either. We weren't told to prepare for the inevitability that everything's going to crash in 2008 and you won't be able to afford a home. And it's kind of, we're kind of paying for the sins of our fathers in a way, because they lived a luxurious on the credit card type of lifestyle, you know what I mean, living beyond their means, and it's kind of always in debt type of situation. And I couldn't imagine what even the generations below me feel, because I feel cheated in many sense. Well, I used to. Nowadays, I'm a bit more forgiving, but it's kind of it, we did see kind of like a resurgence, like the leftist, communistic style socialism rise, maybe around the 2016 period. But I think the pendulum swing the other way, because people saw they're ridiculous. Those people are just ridiculous. Like, they don't love the poor, they just hate the rich. You know what I mean? They're actually bad people. Like, they're just jealous of people's success. And I think the younger generations have swung hardcore conservative in many ways, and are kind of like, I'm not going to get angry. I'm going to get even. I'm going to earn my own money. Do you get what I mean? I'm going to do
Yeah.
it right,
Hmm.
and I'm not going to complain about it. So I think they might actually have a better attitude than millennials did in some ways.
Yeah,
But again,
definitely. No,
yeah, you know,
definitely. I think
it's
I've
it's
seen that.
it's yeah, it's different. It's just a different time, and I'm proud of them in a way that they didn't fall for the same nonsense I did when I was a teenager, going the ultra liberalist way. You know, um, again, because the brainwashing was heavy when I was growing up to go that way. To become basically socialist. You know what I mean? But now I'm older, I guess I empathize a lot more with the conservative idea of, you get what you earn. You got to work to earn money. It's simple, and you get back what you put in. The system's not always fair. Who said it was going to be fair? Shut up and get on with it. I kind of have learned that as I've got older,
Yeah.
and it's good to see that even younger generations aren't getting bitter in many ways. They're just saying they earned their money. I'm just going to aspire to be like them and do what they did and do it better. And I think there's a lot of like new money growing now through new means, which is just using the
Yeah.
internet to their
Hmm.
advantage. I think the landscape's changed drastically. But at the same time, as a Christian with this whole little season perspective and the rest of it and the conspiracy perspective, I'm always looking at it all thinking like, well, where's this going in terms of agenda wise? And there's still war. I think the leaders are not old, and they're not in the same mindset as the new generation. I think the new generation probably will not be into war as much as the current leaders are. I think it will be more of, or religion or anything. I think it will be that whole disillusioned with all of that nonsense of the past, a new religion formed, which is more of a humanistic, you're your own god. We're going to work together to build a utopia and advance mankind's evolutionary process through technology. And it's all going to be that type of humanist, atheistic type religion, but it's basically Luciferianism. You will be as
Yeah.
gods, you know. But
I
no,
don't
no
know.
one will know that's what it is, you know.
But what do you think? Have you seen what I've seen though? That where you see like a lot of these where like people like the Daily Wire are getting dragged because they won't say Christ is King. You know,
I'm
like
not seeing that. No,
no,
no.
I mean there's a big faction of people who are like, yeah, they're fed up. I mean, obviously they're fed up with the people that we're really not allowed to talk about on here. And it's like it in some ways it seems a little bit dangerous, but at the same time, it's like I don't think that they're incorrect to be upset. And it's kind of like Christ is king, and then also this. And it's like, again, they don't always show the fruits, which obviously
Mm.
that's not great either, but I'm getting almost like crusade vibes, if that was actually a real thing. But it's
Well,
kind
I'm,
of like
I'm.
people who are like trying to say that this is right and
Mm,
we're going to tear this place down. You know what I wanted? I wanted to go back to one thing you said about the AI thing. See, the way I see AI right now, I'm less worried about Gog Magog with AI. What I really see, and I've said from the beginning, is that you have like this new high tech processing system that can take people's jobs. And I
mhm.
remember seeing that from like, from years ago. I just thought like, if you take people's jobs away, you take the purpose away for many people. So that's a real dangerous thing. So because you really think about it, I remember thinking about when they were having that writer's strike in Hollywood. I heard they were going to take AI and they were going to turn books into screenplays. And I thought, ooh, dang! I was like, how? I bet you could probably do mostly. You could probably do enough for a good writer editor to if you could an AI could do that, they could shape it into something they could be
Hmm.
put on the big screen. And I thought, oh, dang, that's something that they need to consider. But if you really think about it, like most jobs AI can probably end up doing at some point.
Hmm.
And then that's the real dangerous part if like you're young, because yeah, they're going to take the job before you even are old enough to do them. And then what are you going to do after that? And I think that could it does almost give me have thoughts of a Fight Club at the end where they're just blowing up buildings because it's like this system needs to be torn down
Hmm.
because this does not benefit any of us. It is. It's
No.
like the Operation Chaos and stuff like that. That they were like, yeah, they're not down with any of this stuff because they really have. They're trying to cut, men out of the system completely. And so
Hmm.
white Christian men, it's like, where do we fit? They don't want us here. And I could see
Hmm.
like if you're growing up like that, like what do you do?
I mean, I have no idea. What do we do? Because this is actually quite close to home. I have a family member who used to laugh and joke about how, I do nothing at work all day. I got AI to do my work for me, basically saying, and he runs all these algorithms. I just play video games on my phone all day, kind of like bragging about it, and now he's up for redundancy because they don't need him anymore. And he was laughing
Yeah.
about basically he invented the code that replaced him. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh
Like he
yeah, yeah. No, I
created,
could.
he used AI to create systems that could do his job for him, and then sat back and laughed about it. Clearly bragged about it to the wrong people, and clearly the bosses were like, "We could just use that program to do the job of 100 people and save a lot of money." And it's simple; it's money at the end of the day. But like you said, it doesn't actually benefit anything or anybody but AI itself. Do you know what I mean? And
Well, it
even
does.
like,
It does not benefit a society
no.
to take young men who have a lot of good qualities and you don't give them anything. You don't give anything useful to do with them because yeah, that's how bad things happen when you take young men and they have no purpose. Yeah, it's going to
Mhm.
be like Lord of the Flies, right? They're going to be just wrecking stuff.
What's that
And you know what?
phrase?
And if they
Idle
want to
hands.
if they want to wreck the system that's wrecked their lives, I mean, like, can you blame them?
Hmm. Well, it's like idle hands are the devil's plaything, aren't they? If people haven't got purpose or meaning or something to wake up for in the morning or anything to do, and not everyone's like an artist or a creator or can fill their time with things that are going to be conducive to creativity or something productive, because not everyone's different, and there are going to be people out there with, if you don't give them purpose or a job or meaning, they're going to spiral into depression and perhaps something that's far worse, like you're implying, boredom. And it's kind of, what am I going to do today? Oh, I'm just going to go burn something. I'm just going to go destroy
Yeah,
something, just
yeah.
to just to feel something, just have some excitement, just anything at all, anything, please, something happen. What am I supposed to do? Like, I'm on this universal income, everything's just provided for me. I got robots serving me all the. I can't even like wipe my own ass anymore because the machine does it for me. It's kind of, you just become this useless mass. And I think people, I don't know. Like in that kind of world, again, it's like abundance is what's killing us. It's not like authoritarian taking everything away from you. It's let's just give them everything and drive them insane. It's kind of, that's a
Yeah,
good
but
way to bring down a society because they'll never complain. They'll think everything's good and perfect until it's not, and it's kind of, they'll never fight that. No one's going to fight against that. It's just going to get deeper and deeper
Paul, I'm
into it.
still waiting for them to make us comfortable though.
Well, yeah.
Like
Well,
that's what
that's always
people
the
I mean
promise, isn't it?
that like in the pie in the sky, that's like the Jetsons. That's like what we
Yeah.
were always shown about the future, how easy it's all going to be. Because it would make sense that with all the resources, you get computers and things that are more renewable to do jobs, and now men don't have to do them. So we could get the stuff without doing the work. But like literally, it's just replacing us. And then we're like, maybe one day they'll come up with that basic human income and they'll just give you a little bit of a check. But again, based on what I saw, around here, I we there's gonna we're gonna get a little bit. We'll get table scraps, and none of us will be
Mhm.
that all that comfortable. It'll be just enough. It'll be like prison.
Yeah.
I think that's how they're trying to treat it. It's like it's gonna be just like prison, and nothing good happens in prison.
No.
It's bad in
It sounds like a
there.
Black Mirror episode, doesn't it? When you start like panning it out, and it's kind of, I think that the
I
telling
know,
is
but you
it
know what
will
I'm
be.
saying? But like
Yeah.
I think that that's where like maybe we should start talking more about these kind of issues because I do think that like what's going to happen with this next generation instead of like changing the end of the world being Armageddon versus Gog and Magog because we need to actually really kind of flesh this out like what's actually going to happen because everyone's looking for AI to be the mark of the beast or something but you're like it doesn't have to be the mark of the beast to be bad. It can be really
No.
bad, and people should start talking about that yes, you can't replace people's jobs unless you're willing to take care of people, and it's like, and they're not taking care of people. I think that
But
they're going to allow people to fail like us.
yeah, I think it's funny because again, I've been watching a lot of videos recently, getting up to date with where we are with AI. I've been watching videos from like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years ago to catch up, and it's kind of every single major leader of every single tech company producing AI, whether it be, just name one. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what company. The CEO has been interviewed, and every single one of them say something like, "We're in big trouble. Like if we don't get a wrap on this correctly or do this right, well, like it's the end of the human race." Like all of them basically say
Yeah, no, yeah,
something
you're
along the
right
lines
about
of
that.
that.
They've
Every
said
single
that.
one of them. It's like, yeah, it's like I don't know what we're messing with here. We don't fully understand it, and if we don't like put fail safes in place to do this right, we're all gonna die. Like they all just say it with a straight face. It's like they've dealt with it mentally, internally. They've been dealing with it for years, and it's kind of like they don't know how to sufficiently communicate it to people because they don't understand code or what AI is. And it's kind of like I don't know how to tell you this, but it's kind of like we're creating our own like death here. Like this is the end of humanity. Like we're making something that's going to replace us in every capacity.
See,
That's the
I think for the most part, you could say that that's true, but I think that like we know those people who run this place, that's their goal. And it's
Mhm,
I mean, we get into the stuff where Elon Musk talks about putting his consciousness in some computer or something like that or I mean,
mhm,
is that something he's really trying to do or is it just the idea that yeah, before you had the orphan trains and the Cabbage Patch Kids and all the weird stuff at the incubator babies, like they needed people to do those jobs they were not willing to do. So they had a reason that they wanted to repopulate places. At least that's our
mhm,
thoughts in the beginning of like the little season in the 1800s and all that stuff. But if they could create robots and AI and all the stuff that they've got now to do those same jobs, if you could send drones instead of troops, you don't need troops. If you got
mhm,
really accurate drones, you got all the high tech military equipment. You're like, you don't even need pilots on these planes anymore. You don't need drivers for their cars. I mean,
mhm,
when AI can make some good food for them, like they won't really need us to do anything. And I think that's the thing. It's like, so the human apocalypse will obviously, at least in their minds, there'll still be some humans left, just not
mhm.
us. And
Yeah.
I think that that's probably the where my mind goes is that yeah, you take people's purpose away, you take their food away from them, you start taking their freedom away from me, and it's like people will start tearing each other to pieces
Mhm,
in that kind of scenario because that's what I really started to think about. Like, if anything bad really happened, was like that we are so dependent as a populace on just all the things that we've always come to expect, like going to the grocery store, just turning tap water, getting water out, having heat, having light. And if they started taking those things away, it would get bad real quick. I mean, you see what happens when people start thinking there's a toilet paper shortage.
yeah. I saw that firsthand. Yeah. Yeah. It's bad. People. Yeah. That was a taster of just how crazy people
Yeah,
can
that's what
get,
I'm saying.
even
Imagine if that was
you know.
something more than toilet paper. If it was meat, if it was whatever.
Mhm.
And that's
medicine, you know.
that's kind of a dark way to. We got to wrap the show up in a minute. That might be a dark way to end it.
Well, the problem is this is a dark. Something we can't ignore it though. We have to tackle this because these are the problems coming in our future in some way, some capacity. Maybe not as bad as we, because I have general faith in some humanity. We're not all bad. We don't. People don't want to do that to each other, and I think we're being kind of cajoled into thinking that's how it will all go down, or that like we're being predictively programmed to behave that way when it does happen. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of
Well,
every movie shows people doing that when things go wrong. So people, the programming sets it's like I'm going to react like that too. But maybe if like we can change the zeitgeist a little bit through having these conversations, we can encourage people to, when the lights go out, just chill out and light a candle. Everything will be all right. Go and see if your neighbor's okay. See if you've got any resources you can share together, and see if you can turn the power back on. Don't just suddenly go and rob your neighbor blind and take all their food and close your doors and create a barricade. You don't have to do what the movies told you everyone does. You don't have to react to the programming. And I think, you know, maybe we can hopefully make some dent in the end goal for that. I don't
well,
know.
like I said,
I don't
I
know.
started this off by being mostly positive because I was saying that I do see that the youngest generation who's coming up, I see them rebelling against a lot of the things that have made this place so bad.
Yeah.
And we can pray, and obviously maybe that's the thing we could do is encourage those kind of people to speak boldly about what's true. And it is, like I said, there is something liberating about not having much to lose and saying, and I think that
Mhm.
a lot of us who gained a voice in the past few years, we did see how this place is not stable. We're not guaranteed anything. And then so we started speaking up more boldly because we're just like, I don't even believe any of this stuff is sustainable. So like you start playing, we feel like you're playing with house money. And I think that yeah, that generation growing up, it's like it gets harder. And I think that's why Jesus said it's harder for a rich man to go to heaven than it is for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Because when you got a lot of stuff, you got a lot to lose. That's what
Mhm.
that's why Nicodemus didn't follow Jesus at the beginning too, is because he did not want to give up all the things that he had. But obviously
Mhm.
Jesus is offering way more than that. But it's really difficult when you're thinking like, you can get these kind of platforms and you could say, well, if I say that, they could take all the things I've built away from me.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's like you probably got the platform you got because you said stuff that you didn't have anything to lose and you started saying it, you
Maybe
know?
this is why we need to branch out into other platforms where we can say whatever we want as well, you know? I mean, YouTube's great for some things, but you know, maybe we need to work on a place where we can say the spicy things and those who are listening can get the message out as well.
Yeah,
There's
actually,
places for that, you know.
yeah, we'll tease this, and then I gotta go run out. I gotta go pick up the wife. But yeah, me and Paul have been knocking around the idea of maybe doing something on a somewhat regular basis, and we haven't committed to anything yet. But
No.
doing like a regular podcast where we can be unfiltered. It doesn't mean we're going to be profane or anything like that. It's just we don't know where the line is on YouTube sometimes. So
No, I have no idea.
we would try to err on the side of not getting in trouble, not getting demonetized forever. So we would like to be able to speak frankly. It is so funny. I was watching Ian Carroll on Joe Rogan, and I was saying, YouTube, can we say what they said?
I know, right?
Because if we can, we're good. We don't need another place. We could just say everything we always want to say, but we know.
They can say it, we
Well, I would
can't.
say we say we know that we're not them, so we can't say that. So therefore, we would like it potentially put together a different place that we could have very candid, casual conversation, and they'd probably be more funny because we can say whatever we feel like.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Well, that would be the dream, you know. Like I said, I've been just not on the YouTube game for so long that I don't. I've never really shown the true side of me, I suppose. So I have in many ways, you know. But like I said, there's a line, and I don't know where it is. Like I've crossed it in the past, and I know where some lines are. I've been given strikes, and I've been to the
There's a
camp.
line. We know there's a
You know,
line. We're not sure where it is all the time. I
a
think the
couple of
problem is because it moves.
yeah, I've been sent to the camp once, and I had to fill out a re-educational, educational
The gulag.
thing. You know, I had to do the test and say I conform with the official narrative on this situation. What and then if I was lucky, after 3 months, they might take my strike away. They did, but it's kind of I didn't think I said anything at all outrageous when I said it, But apparently, I crossed a major issue line. And I can't say it. I can't even say what it is because your channel will get the strike. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
you
kind
know
of
what? So
yeah,
Savvy R said like Rumble. Hey, I'll just say this, and I'll be as candid as I can. And this might get I might get called a shill for saying this. Rumble puts a million ads on our videos. They give us no money for it.
mm,
It's and it's kind of like the why would I want to put it this way? Saying spicy things on other platforms is still risky to a point because people can clip you and put you anywhere. And then you say, this guy's on your YouTube platform. So I would rather not put my content over on Rumble right now. It's just because, yeah, somebody's getting all that money. So it's like, why are we making content for Rumble for free? I mean, I know some people think that that's a shilly thing to say, but it's the truth. They don't, they, we could still get in trouble. We're providing them free content and they are somebody's making money over there. It ain't us.
I just don't like the user interface with Rumble personally. I
I've
just
had a hard time
you know,
with the live streams and stuff like that. I've had
yeah.
trouble. You can't change anything. It's we need a better place that's for that we can use for different, a lot of people have said that.
Podcasting's quite good. You can get away with a lot more in a podcast than you can get away with on YouTube. And again, we're not like controversial people. I wouldn't say anything too outrageous or offensive personally, but
Yeah.
it's just there's some things I do want to talk about, which I can't discuss them on the channel. And people say like, why don't you talk about these things? Are you gatekeepers? Why are you not talking about that topic or this topic? It's like, are you trying to get me banned? Like,
Yeah.
there's things I can
BitChute
and cannot say, you know?
BitChute the quality is like the I would have to make my videos like change the quality a lot to upload anything to BitChute. I
I
don't
can't
know.
go there
I guess the
anymore.
thing is like I in my mind I want to have a couple places you can find us. And we'll always be on YouTube. But if we can't always
Mm.
be on YouTube, we'll be in the other place you would always find us. And maybe that might be the only place you'd find us one day if
Well, yeah.
if things went bad. And I think that I guess the main reason I would say this, and this is not a shilly thing to say, it would be that if we have YouTube and we have this other place, we want to grow the other place where it's close to YouTube. Therefore, if anything did, like the rules did kind of change, we did step on some lines or over lines, that it would be much easier to move on from the other place. And I think that's what I said. Sometimes we don't want to, I'm trying not to dilute myself. I want to diversify, but I don't want to dilute it where you have just these small things. Cause yeah, like Paul knows as well as anybody, as he's approaching 100,000 followers or subs on
Mhm.
YouTube, it's a lot of work to build up YouTube. And so you don't want to you want to be able to have at least a safety net that's solid. It's not like
I've been expecting the rug to be pulled out from under me every single day. I wake up thinking, is it still here? Like, is it still here? I've tried to diversify for that reason. Like I said, I've gone to podcast format now, Spotify, wherever it is. But even I don't know what my rules are on there either. I have no idea. But it's kind of like if it does get taken away, there's always Patreon. You know, I can always make it
yeah.
free to people and just post them there constantly instead. There's places we can go, and again, me and you, we have nothing by the way on the cards. We don't know what we're doing or how, but me and you are talking about maybe we'll find another platform to do like a joint show on or something like that. We'll
Yeah,
figure
I think
something
that's
out. You know, yeah, I don't know.
I think it's I think it'd be fun just because I think sometimes it would be another therapy session because it would be I almost think it would be
Yeah,
fun if we did like a if we could do it weekly, it'd be like a weekly wrap up show. We could talk about all the YouTube stuff. We could talk about we could even talk about all the drama and it would be fun and it would be uncensored. It would be more like the conversations we actually have on the phone and stuff like that.
Well, again, it's just like this, to be honest. It's not much different than what we're doing here, but it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
with YouTube, it's like I can't say the name of the thing I want to talk about. I've got to come up with some clever way of making you understand what I'm on about. It would just cut that nonsense out, and I could just say the name. I could say the names, you know, and do the thing. There's a game you've got to play on YouTube. There really is, and it's like, and the boundaries are constantly shifting. I could get a strike for a video I made 5 years ago, for all I know, tomorrow. Like they could just randomly say, nope, that's not okay anymore. And your channel's getting taken away because that thing you said half a decade ago. You know, it can happen,
You
and
know
it
what?
does happen. You
I've
know,
actually thought about that, and I don't know. I don't want to really have to start doing this, but I have at one point thought that I wonder if I should just start taking down some old videos and just like keep like a more modern, keeping like a more current catalog.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Because the fact that
maybe.
I've got
I
as many as I
yeah,
do,
I got rid
I
of a
guess I
lot.
don't know, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't know where to start. Because I mean, again, I think that's the thing. Is like me and Paul don't say anything that we should ever get in trouble for,
no.
and we're respectful, and we're not trying to be out here and to be antagonistic or be provocative in the stuff we say, and yet still you do step over the line sometimes again because we don't know exactly where it is. But with that being said, guys, yeah, I just think it would be awesome, and I'm sure you guys would enjoy it because I think that when you make content, usually you guys would like the stuff that we enjoy making because it is something that it's not forced, it's not
Hmm.
shilling, it's literally just like conversations that you guys all have, and yeah, I do enjoy that where me and Brian have done some really unfiltered stuff, and it's like it seems so weird to record that, but I think that's the way it should be. I would love to do that, and I think that if we did have a show that was either weekly or every 2 weeks, and we did it, it is therapeutic to be able to say all the stuff, and you can obviously we could keep in the boundaries of YouTube when we're here
Hmm.
because we know that we're going to be able to say all the other things for the other place.
Cathartic. It's for us more than anybody. It's not for you guys. It's just so we can vent on a level where we can actually just say what we think for
Yeah.
once.
Hmm.
Well, again, we do try on YouTube, and I'm always testing the boundaries. And luckily, lately, I've not really crossed any lines too much. But with what I'm going to start talking about, I feel like with it's always the current thing. If you talk about a current controversial thing, that's where you're crossing lines. They're trying to control the narrative live, aren't they? And
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
problem, So you've got to be careful.
I
And
have learned
again,
that.
yeah.
I learned that lesson at TikTok because I thought that, well, for one thing, this is one reason I've always enjoyed looking into past events because usually those are good indicators of what's going to happen in the future. Again, like even in the Bible, there's a typology. There's a typology throughout history. Now, what I didn't realize before is that human history is pretty inaccurate for the most part, but I thought it was more accurate to look back. But I remember always thinking like if you can point out stuff in the past, then yeah, that can potentially predict what's coming. But I did notice when you talked about the hot topic, the thing that just happened, that is the quickest way to get in trouble
Hmm.
because again, like if you don't know what, like that's the quickest way misinformation gets spread by somebody
Hmm.
having a hot take that just something just happened just today, and we're gonna quickly make a thumbnail and we're gonna react to it and we're gonna have strong opinions. So yeah, but on the other place, we could do just that.
We could, yeah, yeah,
We could say
absolutely.
whatever
I
we
say
want
I
to.
avoid it. I give it like a couple of weeks or a few weeks before I do my own commentary on something. Just let the dust settle first and let the algorithm move on, and then it's like, okay, now let's get retrospective about what just happened a month ago. It's that's always been
Mm-hmm.
my pattern. I've got away with that so far. And there we go. But yeah, I look forward to it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I don't know what we're doing yet, but we'll figure something out for sure.
Well, anyways, brother, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate all you guys with the super chats. You guys have been amazing today. You guys have had some great questions. Once again, I want to promote tomorrow. I believe that I'm going on Old World Florida's channel tomorrow. I believe we're live streaming probably early in the morning. So if you guys are on a different coast or might be perfect for Paul because he's across the pond. But I think we're going live in the morning time, maybe even 9:30 a.m. Eastern. That's just the way it works out. So if you guys want to check it out, look at Old World Florida's channel. And yes, trying to think what else I was going to hear to be promoted. Oh yeah, once again, check out Modern Roots Life. Link in the description. New sponsor of the show. If you guys like to support your brother JT, you can support me by supporting a good Christian company selling natural health supplements that are third party tested. Would appreciate that. Anyways, Paul, do you got anything else you want to promote while you're here besides the
I
Nephilim Look Like Clowns book?
I will also be talking to Dr. Longo tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK time, whatever
Uh-oh.
time that is Eastern time. So whenever
Mm-hmm.
that's 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. or something Eastern, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what a busy day Dr. Longo has to be talking to both of us. What a coincidence. It must be his only day to do it or something. I have no idea. But yeah, so there we go.
He runs a bookstore, and so
Yeah.
he's like he was there all day yesterday. So I think tomorrow is like his only day off. So I guess
Hmm.
That's why
It
he's
just worked out that way, yeah.
this
But you'll be
special.
doing Old World. I'll be doing Clowns. If you want to get a copy of the Nephilim Like
Yeah.
Clowns, yeah, just go to Amazon and you'll find that cover there. I do actually have a stack. I've ordered in some copies to my house. Like I've got a
Mhm.
box. If you want a signed copy, email me at understandingconspiracy@gmail.com and I can ship that out to you wherever you are in the world. That's fine. So that's all I can really promote. And yeah, I'll be just doing my thing on YouTube.
Well, again, appreciate it, Paul. Appreciate all you guys. I love you guys dearly. I'll see you on the next one. Yeah, that was good.